Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Night Owl, a show that we do twice a week where we discuss all the latest in pop culture news, TV and movie reviews, and gaming news, and all the conversations of the day. For those who don't know, I'm Price of Reason, and with me, as usual, is my co host, Professor R2. How's it going, Professor?
Well, going all right. It's been a long day. I had to be up pretty early this morning, but it's all right. It's been a good day. Lots of good stuff going on. Unfortunately, some sad stuff going on too out there in the real world. So I'm sure we'll get to talk about some of that here. But it's good to be with you tonight, Price. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to be here. And yeah, definitely, there's been a lot of things happening when it comes to I don't know. Always when there's sort of an actor or an actress dies, you get a few of them at the same time. I feel like we got. They always say, "Oh, they come and go in threes,"
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I mean, the thing is that the other two that passed away with this week certainly didn't have the kind of resume that Gene Hackman had,
No,
and
not at all.
obviously, but the thing with them is they were young. Michelle Trachtenberg, 39 years old. When it comes to Roberto Orci. Again, I didn't love all of his stuff, creative output, but the
Sure.
guy was 51 years old, which is also young. And then Gene Hackman, who was 95 years old, which seems like, fair enough at that age that a man passes away after living a full life. But
Yeah.
the circumstances of his passing are just kind of, strange.
Very strange, yes. Very, very strange circumstances there. So it's kind of yeah, it's so what hearing this morning, first seeing something like, oh no, that's terrible. Yeah, he was an elderly man, and then as things started to get on through the day, you started to hear a little bit more about it, and you're like, oh, this sounds really weird. This sounds really suspicious. So yeah, I it's sad to think, that something really tragic might have happened there at the end that took Gene Hackman from us. But yeah, such an incredible actor, so much talent. I I can't even I'm not even sure I can even pin down a particularly favorite performance from him. Really, like the first thing I remember seeing him in, I mean, as a kid, the first thing I saw him in was Superman, right? Saw him
That
as
would be
as
my
Lex
first
Luthor.
time too. That would be my first time.
But, later on, seeing him in other roles like, French Connection, which is an absolute classic, seeing other things like, oh gosh, Unforgiven, um, yeah, just so many great roles and, such an incredibly talented actor. There were so many just incredibly sweet, beautiful little tributes to him online from different actors and directors and stuff today. It was really really sweet to see that.
Yeah. I think that I mean like under other circumstances this would be an actor that there's so much good things to say about him. He has such a resume, and without googling or without like just even looking, just if I had to think about it, yeah, Estefobos says The French Connection, so many good movies, the Conversation. I'm just thinking like those are like some of the earlier ones. You had Superman, uh, you had movies, The Firm. You had movies. It's like he was in so many movies. You had the one. What's his face? Uh, what's I don't know why now I can't remember the name of it. It's such a good movie. I love the movie and I can't remember the name of it. What's the one with Denzel Washington that they're on? Crimson Tide. Yeah,
Yeah,
Crimson
Crimson
Tide.
Tide. Yeah, great
Great
film.
movie. Great movie. That is a perfect Gene Hackman performance. And yeah, I mean playing off of also Denzel Washington, that is such a good movie. That's like the kind of movie that we used to get. And when I say used to get, like Crimson Tide came out, I didn't even hear about it. I didn't know what it was, and then I saw it and I'm like, "Whoa." Like what a good movie. And like nobody was even making a big deal about it. Like the amount of great acting and performances, and Gene Hackman is just awesome in that movie. And it was just like another movie. That's we were spoiled. We were spoiled. You have
Yeah.
that. You have No Way Out. Really loved No Way Out. That's an early Kevin Costner movie that I thought was great. Really liked what happened in that one. Uh, you have like the Royal Tenenbaums. I liked him in there. That was probably the part that I liked about the movie.
Mhm.
The Royal Tenenbaums sometimes is a Wes Anderson, whatever. Some of those guys kind of annoy me with their artsy fartsy movies. But Gene Hackman again, awesome in the movie. Uh, I'm trying to remember. There's so many good roles that I'm sure I'm forgetting some of them. It's like, and he's never bad.
Yeah.
He's never bad in any performance.
Yeah. I mean,
Phobos does The Replacements,
yeah.
Hoosiers, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Hoosiers, definitely. That's one that I recall from when I was a kid. I actually remember for some reason, we watched that in class one day, like, in school. 'Cause I remember watching that one and going, "Oh, yeah, this was an interesting movie." Yeah, I mean, gosh, just so many different things. His just hilarious small role in, in Young Frankenstein. Oh, yeah, there, where Rockstra mentioned it there. Um, uh, Gosh, yeah, his role in Superman as Lex Luthor. I mean, it's funny because it's just silly movie, right? I mean, it's a comic book movie, but he really brought everything to that role that he could, and he did his best in trying to play Lex
No,
Luthor
he
there.
was great. He was like, I really owe Enemy of the State. I can't think of a movie that he did that I thought that his acting wasn't good.
No,
And really almost every movie he was in, I liked it at least to an extent because he was in it. The only one that I think once that I saw that I didn't really like the movie, and I still think he was good in it, but like the movie kind of was annoying to me. There was something that he was a grandfather and that I think that Matthew Broderick was his grandson. Something that
hmm.
it's like 3 generations. It's like he's the grandfather, then there's like, some guy who's in the middle, and I don't remember who that person is, even that played, like, the middle role, and then I think Matthew Broderick played the grandson. Could be wrong. There was something like that. That was a movie I can't even remember what that movie Unforgiven is good, yeah, sure.
Oh yeah,
Uh
Unforgiven, and not as good, but also enjoyable. Western, The Quick and the Dead, also.
Istafobos says the conversation was us old people's favorite movie. You know what? I don't know how old you are, and I don't know how old I am, but that is a movie. I think that when the conversation came out, it wasn't something. It was, I would say, sort of before my time. But as I was like studying film many years ago, I actually I went out of my way to go see it. It's something that was mentioned in some classes. I'm like, I got to watch this movie, and I went and I rented it and I watched it, and yeah, it's an amazing movie. So, absolutely, absolutely wonderful movie. Nobody knows what movie it was that he had a grandson and a son. That they're like 3 generations of like weird, like they're losers or something. They're like 3 generation of losers. That is the only movie out of his whole catalog that like I watch it and I'm like, man, I feel like Gene Hackman used to pick good movies. Like the movies that he picked, if nothing else, they were at least pretty decent. You know what I mean? Like, okay, that
Yeah.
Mooseport one, the last one that he did with Ray Romano wasn't a great movie, but
No.
even that one, which is one of his weakest,
Mhm.
he was still very good in it. He made it watchable, and it was better than the 3 Generations. Come on, give me who's the 3. I'm gonna have to Google it if not. Who's the 3 Generation one where there's, like, Matthew
You said Matthew Broderick?
Matthew Broderick and Google if Matthew Broderick and Gene Hackman were in a movie together. What'll be funny is I'm probably wrong and it's not even Matthew Broderick, but let's pretend it is and see if something comes up.
Let's
Uh,
see.
the Dead was a Broderick Hackman movie. Sam Raimi.
Let's
I
see.
don't know.
Perplexity says there is no movie featuring both Gene Hackman and Matthew Broderick together.
Ugh, so fine.
It's AI, but it's a it's usually pretty
No,
good
it's
at that
probably
stuff.
right. Then which was the one that
Yeah.
there's 3 generations? Come on, somebody has to know this thing. All right, all right. I'm gonna do a proper Google now. Unfortunately, somebody's got to
Yeah.
Google this thing.
I mean, yeah, there's obviously there's the Royal Tannenbaums, but um
Okay, I'll tell you right now. Let's look at his actor credits. I'm going to tell you right now. This has to be something maybe in the 80s or something like that. So, it's not there's so many movies. It's
Oh,
not
yeah, I mean,
Hoosier.
he's in a ton of films.
Right, it's not this, it's not that. Uh, what's Company Business? No, that's
No,
not
no,
it.
yeah, he's in that's like a Russian athlete or something that he was in that with.
Oh, well, we're never gonna get this one, are we? Mississippi Burning. Almost forgot about that, such a good movie. Uh, oh, man, I know there was a movie like this.
There's a Target with Matt Dillon. I don't know if that's got 3 generations of people in it.
I remember something about him playing a grandfather. I'm gonna look very quickly. If I don't get it, then I'll just understand that
See.
there's nothing. Unless I've somehow attached him to a crappy movie that wasn't even his fault, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't even take the script, like, he didn't do it, yet I somehow threw him under the bus. The Firm, he was great in The Firm. Uh, what's Class Action? Class Action, which one was Class Action? I feel like I've seen is that the one that he's with his daughter in court? Class Action is like him and his daughter argue a trial or something?
Yeah, I think that's the one. Yeah, I think that's, what's going on in that one.
Yeah, I remember that one. See, even some of these ones that are just like whatever, I mean, even those, if you watch it, he was great in them. He was just always, really good. I wish I could find out what that movie is. Now it's gonna bother me forever
It's
that I
gonna
thought
haunt
that he
you.
was in it.
It's gonna haunt you.
Okay, okay. Let's do this. Was Matthew Broderick ever in a movie with 3 generations? Matthew Broderick, comedy about 3 generations. Are you with me?
Yep.
Let's see if something comes up. Family Business. Ah,
Sean
okay.
Connery,
Sean Connery,
Dustin
Dustin
Hoffman,
Hoffman, and
Matthew
Matthew
Broderick.
Broderick.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, okay, okay. So, first of all, I apologize to you, Gene Hackman. I know you're no longer with us, but I apologize that I even associated you had a better way of choosing scripts. You actually the movies that he chose, if nothing else, they were watchable from what I remember. I don't think I've seen, like, Gene Hackman movies that, like, I see the movie and I can't watch it. I feel like usually if he already accepted a script, he was at least good in it, and maybe there was something redeeming about it. Yes, some people say that Superman 4: The Quest for Peace was a bad movie. He did the best he could with it. I was still able to watch that movie, even though it is admittedly not a good movie, but it has Christopher Reeve in it. It has Gene Hackman. There's enough for me to like about it, even though it's like
Yeah.
a ridiculous canon
Oh, well,
production.
yeah, so it was a Golden Globus thing that
Golan
they
Globus,
ended up taking all the money that they really should have spent on that film and gave it to,
He-Man,
the He-Man movie, yeah, the
which
Masters of the
also sucked.
Universe, which was also
Those guys were such like they had the mentality of like when you're in a flea market and you have like you're selling like tomatoes in like the flea market. That was like their mentality of how they used to make movies. On one hand, it's like it's terrible that that's how they made them, and on the other hand, usually their movies have a certain strange charm to them
they
that
do, a lot of them do.
because of their mentality, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like their weaknesses were also their strengths, if that makes sense.
Yes. I will tell you what has no charm to it, and that was the movie that they thought was going to really send them into the big time. That's The Apple. Have you ever seen that?
No, remind me what happens in the
Oh,
apple.
dear God. It is a retelling sort of the Adam and Eve, mythology, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Basically, there's a record producer who's essentially Satan and, tempts the girl away to go be a musician, and, she falls into a world of all, lust and all this stuff, but it's a musical. It's this huge disco musical production full of hippies and wild clothes and I mean, it is a sight to see, but it is also one of the worst films that has
What were
ever
they
been made.
thinking? What were they thinking? But yeah, I
I
mean, sorry, go
Yeah.
on.
Well, it was it was gonna be this amazing, this huge production. It was gonna be, like a top tier Broadway musical on film, But yeah, oh no, it's an abomination.
Istofobos, he was one of those actors who was born looking 40 years old. I think he invented the category. I agree with you. He always looked, I guess, like an older guy, but he did it so well. And Murakstra says Tom Cruise is better than Kevin Bacon, A Few Good Men. Well, Tom Cruise is the star of that movie. Uh, Tom Cruise, that's probably one of his best performances. Whether you like Tom Cruise or not, A Few Good Men is. See, the thing I'll just say quickly about Tom Cruise, and then we'll go back to Gene Hackman. One of the things, in my opinion, that Tom Cruise roles that are a good fit for him, if it's a role that needs you to kind of be this, like arrogant hotshot guy that, like, you're all full of yourself a bit,
Mhm.
those are usually roles that are good for Tom Cruise. I'm not suggesting that maybe that's the way he is in real life. I don't know him. I'm just saying that anytime he has a role where he's a bit cocky and arrogant, and he kind of is overconfident a bit, those are roles that usually like he does well in. If you see like The Color of Money with Paul Newman, Paul Newman is the experienced guy with the pool and all that, all of his hustle. Tom Cruise is this young guy, like full of himself, that he's on the scene now. Uh, Cocktail, young bartender, was all full of himself, on the scene now. That was also something that, a good role for him. Then what else? Rain Man. Dustin Hoffman is like, has autism. His brother is this cocky, arrogant guy that he's just trying
Mhm.
to pull a few fast ones. Again, those are the kind of roles he used to take back in those days. When he took those roles, I think acting wise, he was at his best. And then when it comes to A Few Good Men, the kind of cocky and arrogant lawyer, perfect. I really, out of all of his many roles, that one is perfect. See, some people, they like the movie The Last Samurai. My problem is that I didn't quite buy him as The Last Samurai. You know, I know that some people like that movie. I tried to watch it, and I said to myself, "Man, I'm not buying Tom Cruise as The Last Samurai."
Mhm.
Uh, maybe he could have been an Assassin's Creed Shadows or something, but didn't buy him as that. But and Dead Man has something very important to share. Demi Moore was so hot in A Few Good Men. You know what? Uh, those were good. Those were some good years for Demi Moore. And I'll even say something that recently I saw the movie Substance, and you know what? Demi Moore has taken pretty good care of herself.
Mhm.
Just throwing that out there. That
Yeah.
I think most women at whatever age she's at would probably want to look like Demi Moore at that age. Yes. So, and then they wrote, "Oh, that's why they chose him for Tropic Thunder." Maybe that's why they thought that he would be good for Tropic Thunder. You're absolutely right. It could be. Somebody
Yeah.
says he wasn't the last samurai. Katsuyaria. Yes, the other guy was. I don't know that movie. Didn't buy it. I know some people like it. Maybe one day I'll give it a try again, but I didn't buy the movie. Anyhow, we're talking about Gene Hackman. Okay, before we get to Gene Hackman, the movie that I was referring to, where is that movie? The Family Business.
Mhm.
Okay, Family Business movie. Let's see if I can find it. So it's this thing here. I'm going to share the screen. Great to have everybody with us today,
Mhm.
as always, of course. So this thing that I'm sharing now, this Family Business movie, I am so sorry to Gene Hackman that I put him in here, but the reason why, and I put him in good company, I remember that it was three really, at least two strong actors, or at least three good actors from three generations, and that it was a father, son, I think, and grandson. Uh, Sean Connery, I guess, was the grandfather. Dustin Hoffman was his son, and Matthew Broderick was was his son. And when I saw like this movie at the video rental store, I'm like, I have to get this movie. This has to be the best movie ever. I mean, these were actors that I really liked. And at that time, Matthew Broderick, it's not too far after his success from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, just a few years later. Dustin Hoffman obviously already liked the actor. Sean Connery was already like an actor that I was really a fan of. So I got this movie, and I see it's directed by Sidney Lumet, which also that's like considered, you know, very competent. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it had all the makings of a wonderful hit movie, and then I watched it. and it was awful. It was an awful movie. It was such a bad movie. I was so annoyed. I can't tell you how, like, how annoyed it is. And it says that the movie didn't do so well at the box office, but it found greater success with video rentals. Yes, greater success because I was an idiot, because I rented it thinking that it would be a good movie. And then I sat and probably everybody went through the same process. They all said, what could possibly be bad about this? It's a hidden gem. Sean Connery, Dustin Hoffman, Matthew Broderick, three generations of, business. And yeah, you never want to. Maybe one day I'll give it a shot again. But honestly, from what I remember, it was a terrible, terrible movie. And I remember that I got upset. And I'm very thankful that Gene Hackman had nothing to do with this movie. I guess I thought that he played the Sean Connery role. Hey, Midnight's
Gotcha.
Edge After Dark, how's it going? What was I gonna
Yeah.
say?
Hey there, Tom.
Hey, how's it going, Tom? 1 second. What was I gonna say? So yeah, so okay, so no, I think that movie was crappy. I don't know if anybody, if anybody, nobody even knows what I'm talking about. I feel like nobody watched that movie that I just mentioned.
It's definitely not one I've ever seen.
It
So
was only me. When they wrote in this article that it did well in rentals, it's because of me. I'm the one that moved the needle. It had like 0 rentals and 0 people went to see it, and I rented it. And they had to edit the Wikipedia article because of me. They're like,
it did well in rentals. This one guy rented it, and
well, this one guy rented it. We got to edit the article. I mean, these days, this whole Wikipedia is kind of a joke. Uh, they are no longer a really. I mean, they're a reliable source when it's about something insignificant, like a movie from like 40 years ago. But if you want any kind of topic that's a little more, you know, modern or has a few different angles to it, they'll give you the most like hard left angle they can. And I don't think that Wikipedia should be that way. And then, so yeah, so basically, back to what we were doing here. So we were looking. Let's try to share this Gene Hackman filmography, so we can do a little bit of like honoring him. Do you see it?
no, I put it present. You're sharing. I think it's not in presentation mode though.
Okay, here you go. So you got some of these I haven't seen. I admit it. What is this? Oh, this is like TV. Mad Dog Call, Tallahassee 7000. There was a lot of stuff here, which is like I guess he did TV. Yeah, back in the day, I
Mhm.
guess.
Yeah.
Not even a lot of work, considering the level of actor that he was. It's like really minor stuff that he gets to do here. Bonnie and Clyde. I guess this is one of the ones that sort of. Maybe that was one of the early ones that put him on the map. I'm trying to think. I haven't watched Bonnie and Clyde in a really long time.
No, that's one I haven't seen in a long time either. I have seen it. It's been quite some time.
I remember seeing it once, actually, and you know what? I had the at least the privilege of seeing it because I think when I studied film, there was a little theater that part of like your studies is that you sit in a little theater and they show you movies, even old ones, a lot of old ones. So
Yeah.
that was one that they showed me, and I remember that there's a scene that suggests that out of like Clyde. Doesn't rise to the challenge with the ladies or something.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I think that scene annoyed me that she's like, oh, don't like, I don't know. She's all like toying with him and he's like not interested. I don't know. Something made me feel weird about that movie. Maybe that's why I never revisited it. Trying to think what Gene Hackman did there. Was he one of his gang, one of the gangs, or was he a cop? I can't even remember. Somebody can tell me in the comments. I just know that maybe because of the scene with the he wasn't good with the ladies, like, it kind of annoyed me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he was another criminal.
Maybe he was in their gang, maybe he was another criminal. It makes sense. It makes sense that that would be an early and by the way, Bonnie and Clyde was a movie that if he was anything, in there, probably helped put him on the map.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's listed as one of the movies that really kind of helped really launch his career
I
in
believe that.
film.
I believe that, and I think that then, you have the French Connection, that's another one that really, put him
Oh
on the
yeah,
map.
that one absolutely. He just blew up after that one. Did he win the Academy Award for that one?
I think he might have. He won a few awards. I think that may have been
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I know he won the Academy Award twice.
Right. And I think that was one of them. And then
Yeah.
you had The Conversation, wonderful movie. His smaller role in Young Frankenstein. French Connection 2, I've never seen. I admit I've never seen it. And then for me, I Superman is really that's the reason why I first knew that there was such an actor. Superman,
Mhm.
Superman 2. Those are just like he's brilliant, brilliant. It may not mean anything to other people, but for me, he is Lex Luthor. Anybody that wants to be Lex Luthor, the first thing that pops in my mind is him. Just like I always associate Christopher Reeve with Superman. Lex Luthor. My first association is that I think of Gene Hackman. Yes, there have been other ones, and maybe they're fine, but Gene Hackman is just so good in the role.
So actually, you skipped over one I wanted to mention. Back there in 1969,
Yes.
Marooned.
Okay.
That film won the Academy Award that year for its for the special effects, for visual effects.
Okay.
And amusingly, it is also the only Academy Award winning movie that ever made it on Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was not considered a very good film. It ended up getting repackaged as for distribution, and then it ended up being riffed on MST3K. So there's a Gene Hackman movie in Mystery Science Theater.
But by the way, Tom, I see you commenting here. I sent you a link in case you're around if you're not editing or something like that. But it's no pressure, of course. I know you do a lot of work at night. So if you're just listening in the background, that's cool too. And nice to see everybody here, 6 as well, you said. Uh, yeah, so I've never seen Marooned. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I
But
mean, special effects for the time are fantastic. It's about three astronauts get trapped in space. Their capsules damaged. They can't return. They can't return to Earth, and so trying to figure out, how they're going to get them back to Earth, or if they can, or if they can send someone up to rescue them. And there's a whole drama. I mean, it's a little melodramatic, to be honest, but
I mean,
yeah,
it,
it's not a great movie. It's probably one of his worst.
I'm sure his performance is good in it as it
Yeah.
always is. But here I see that he had really a few things. Like you could tell that he's really, in this period he's like on a roll. He has Hoosiers. Well, Superman 4 isn't really on a roll. No Way Out. Split Decisions, I can't remember which one that was. Bat 21, can't remember that one. Full Moon and Blue Water. Wow, some of these I don't even remember. Another Woman, remind me, what was that one?
Oh gosh,
Was he
I
like
don't.
having an affair? Mississippi Burning,
Yeah.
that's a strong one.
Don't. I've not seen Another Woman,
Package,
so
I
I
don't
don't know about
know.
that
Loose
one.
Cannons, I don't know. Postcards from the Edge, that's familiar. They had the Stunning and Brave Ladies. What was it? Was it Susan Sarandon? I don't even know. Uh,
Hmm.
let's click on it. Okay. What's Postcards from the Edge?
Oh,
Meryl Streep
Postcards
and
from the Edge. Isn't that based on Carrie Fisher's book?
is it? So it's Meryl Streep, Shirley MacLaine, and Dennis Quaid. I didn't actually know. I've never seen that movie. It was probably I perceived it as a movie for women, and that's probably why I didn't watch it. Now I could be wrong. Maybe it wasn't for women, but that's what I thought, and I could only follow my instinct and never watch the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, that was okay. So it's the book that's based on the semi autobiographical novel written by Carrie Fisher. Yep.
I see. Well, I like
Later
Carrie Fisher, but
later
I guess
adapted by Fisher into a major motion picture of the same name. Yep.
I like Carrie Fisher very much. I think when that came out, it looked like a movie for women, and I skipped it. So, Class Action, I remember that's the one with his daughter.
Mhm.
Company Business, that's probably something that's why I thought of Family Business. That's why it all got jumbled. But this one was with Baryshnikov, and I don't even remember this one, actually. I don't know how
Yeah.
everything got jumbled in my mind, but yeah, okay. Unforgiven, that he was great in that.
Oh yeah.
The Firm,
Amazing.
also great. Geronimo, an American Legend, I don't remember. White Earp, yeah. Quick and the Dead, not sure I've seen that one. Crimson Tide, I've seen. Great. Fantastic in that movie. It's a great movie too. Get Shorty was also good in that.
Mhm.
That's a movie that I'm it's strange, I've only watched it once.
Yeah, I've only seen that one once. It's been quite some time since I saw
There's
that,
people
but
that
I watched that when it originally came out, or shortly thereafter, I think on rental.
there's people that, like, that love that movie, and I think
Mhm.
that I watched it once, and everybody was telling me how great it was, and I watched it, and I'm like, "Okay, it's alright." And, like, I wasn't as excited as other people were, so I liked it, and there's great performances there all around and all that, but I don't know. I mean, of course, he's always good in every movie, so, The Birdcage, I'm trying to remember what that is. Don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's the one with Nathan Lane and,
Didn't see that one. Extreme Measures, I'm trying to think.
yeah, it had Nathan Lane and Robin Williams, Birdcage, yeah.
Extreme Measures seems interesting. I don't know why I've never watched it, but I didn't. And
I
then, let me see. So we have, Extreme Measures, The Chamber, don't even know what it is. Some of these movies, I admit, I don't know. Absolute Power, Twilight. It's not the Twilight with
Yeah.
Kristen Stewart.
The
The
Chamber, I think that was a, legal drama.
I guess so. Well,
Could
it
be
may not have
wrong.
been a very
I
good
don't
one. I
remember.
don't know much about it. Uh, you have but I will skip
Yeah.
here to Enemy of the State. That was a good movie. Saw that in the theater. I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah. Oh, that's I
I
that's one I've never seen.
really,
Yeah.
really like that movie. I don't know. I haven't watched it since I saw it in the theater when it came out, but I remember sitting, in the theater and watching it. And the one thing that I actually saw that movie in London. Actually, now London is a very different place, but at the time it was nice to go to London. Um, so at the time, I sat in a movie theater in London, and I felt like it was a different experience than what I was used to. Maybe, today it's different. You have like theaters that are more fancy and have like reclining seats and things like that. The seats were very comfortable, and it seemed rather clean. And I think that compared to what I was used to, it seemed like a rather fancy theater in London when I watched this, and I was very very happy. So that movie, what I liked about it is that it sort of was ahead of its time in the sense that the Gene Hackman character, he's former. Some people say that he's playing the same character as he played in The Conversation. With it's kind of a wink, wink or whatever. Maybe Tom said that earlier. I don't even know. In any case, that would make sense, though. I think that maybe crossed my mind when I watched it. They were definitely going for that type of character, but he's kind of an expert, and he's like telling Will Smith's character that how the methods that you can spy today, that you can record like voices and analyze them and things like that. And you know, it's kind of ahead of its time, even when I think about it. Really like that movie, and it had Lisa Bonet when she, was still. I mean, she's still lovely, but I don't know. I'm gonna shut up now. Sometimes it's better to just shut up. The
Yes. Yeah.
Replacements.
Yeah.
The Replacements is a movie, right? That's a movie?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I saw that one.
I
Real
think that
real
I th
quick, we got a 5 gifted memberships for Price of Reason Live from Istaphobos.
Phobos, thank you very much. Phobos is a good friend of the channel. Always like his takes. He sometimes also, just even when we're not live, sends me some information and things. Always very passionate about, subjects that are of interest to him. So yeah, thank you very much, Phobos. I really appreciate it. And yeah, we're honored to have you hang out with us as usual. See, Mark D with a C is here. Hi, Phobos. He's saying hi to Phobos. I'm saying hi. And then back to the Replacements. Yes, I remember this movie. I've seen it once. The Replacements.
Yeah, I saw this one as well. Yeah.
I mean, it was all right.
It
Some
was
people
okay.
may it was the Mexican. I've seen the Mexican. I can barely even remember what he did there.
Mm-mm.
That movie isn't that the one with like Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts or something? No, that's the year Brad Pitt. They're like romantic comedy of sorts. I
Okay.
guess
Mm.
it had James Gandolfini in it. It had. I didn't even remember that Gene Hackman was in this. Honestly, it has J.K. Simmons, Gene Hackman. maybe he did something in it, but I don't think that he was like the focus of the movie. Royal Tenenbaums, I remember. Heartbreakers, I don't even remember what that's supposed to be with Jennifer Love Hewitt and Sigourney Weaver. I don't even know what that is. I feel like that was maybe at the check collecting phase of Gene Hackman's career. Just like, Gene, do you want to be in a movie with Sigourney Weaver and Jennifer Love Hewitt? Here's a check. Heist. Uh, Heist. Don't remember. Gene Hackman, Daddy DeVito, Delroy Lindo. Never seen this one. It looks kind of
Mm-mm.
interesting.
No,
I actually regret
not
not
that
seeing
one.
it. Maybe at some point I'll give it a chance. Then you have the Royal Tenenbaums. Yeah, that some people like that movie.
Yeah.
I it's just whatever. Behind Enemy Lines, I've seen that movie. Yes, I remember now. I've only seen it once, but yeah. And then I guess these are his final movies already. You had Runaway Jury. Isn't that the one with John Cusack?
Yeah, sounds familiar. Or else there's see Dustin
Here,
Hoffman,
Cusack, Hackman,
John Cusack,
Hoffman,
yeah.
Weiss. Yeah, I mean, from what I remember, it was a really decent, really good movie. And generally today, I'm not a big fan of John Cusack. Like, he makes me almost not. Sometimes when you have these weirdos, you almost don't want to even watch their movies anymore.
Yeah.
He's really, really irritating. He is super annoying. Like, I wish he would just shut up, because here and there were movies growing up that I liked him in. I really wish he would just shut up. And in this movie, in Runaway Jury, I think that it was a movie that required him to do a little more of a dramatic turn. It was like not goofy. He was actually a little more serious. And Hackman, Hoffman, and Weiss. This was a really good movie from what I remember, or at least serviceable enough movie. I don't know if to say really good, but I remember watching it and really liking it. Could be wrong. That's how I remember it. Now everybody's going to say it sucks, but I don't know. I liked it. And then finally, I feel like this was it. He did this Welcome to Mooseport with Ray Romano. He probably saw how the film came out, collected his check. He probably said to himself, "You know what? I don't need to do this anymore."
Yeah, maybe I don't need to.
He,
Maybe I don't need
he
to do
he
this.
sat in the theater. He saw Ray Romano like talking to him on screen, and he said that this is it. This is the end of the road. This is like you know. I really feel like he saw this movie and figured this is it. Like, he shouldn't make any more movies because they may come out like this one. uh, Although he did his best with it. I mean, I thought he was good in the movie. It's not like he didn't give a professional performance, and I think he still had some movies in him after this. He could have done more. Like, it's not like he had to retire. He certainly could have done more than this. You know what? Maybe he should have tried to go like out on a high note. Just one movie that's not this one. Do that movie and then like quit. Because this wasn't really quitting while he was ahead, but
No, certainly was not.
it wasn't. Yeah. So anyhow, regardless, though, he has a really, really good resume of movies, and can't take that away from him. On the other hand, though, unfortunately, and I'm wondering if there were any updates ever since we've been looking at it all day. Have there been any updates regarding this
No,
situation?
no. I checked earlier this evening, just a few hours ago, to see if maybe there had been any news. But the latest news is basically that they went into the home. They actually found the door was ajar, the front door. So, but the people that found them were some maintenance people. The last time they had been there was a few weeks before. When they arrived, like no one was there, no one was answering the door. The door was like, wasn't quite shut. They didn't want to go in. So I guess they walked around the house and they were able to see through some windows, and that's where they were able to see his wife collapsed on the floor. And that's when they called 911. The bigger updates were that they did finally get some investigators there. Uh, they did find him in the mud room next to his cane. It looked like he had fallen. And they found her in the bathroom, and she was surrounded by a bunch of prescription pills that had been spilled on the floor from an open bottle. and their dog, or at least one of their dogs, I don't know, had passed away in the nearby closet. So it's really, really sort of strange situation. It doesn't seem like this was something like a gas leak or carbon monoxide. They weren't able to find any evidence of that in the house. Uh, there's any number of different theories at this point, but they definitely are going to be doing doing their due diligence and investigating. They did say that both bodies were in more advanced levels of decay, so it potentially could have been there for a couple of days up to a couple of weeks.
Well,
It had been several weeks since the maintenance people had been out there, and they were the only ones who were regularly visiting the property besides the two of them. So yeah, it's a
I
really, really sad situation.
I mean, what I can say is that, from what I understand, that, uh, this is at least something I can only quote, I think, Angry Badger told me. What I can do is just, speculate, but according to what he understood, basically, I don't know if he heard it somewhere or why he gathered this information. I could be just quoting it. Like I said, it could be a complete trust me, bro situation. But apparently, the wife seemingly found the guy. Like Gene, the theory is she saw him dead, and even though I said, well, she has, she's 30 years younger. So what if he's dead? Like, she's sad, but she still has 30 years, and
Hmm.
usually you don't expect in a situation like that that the sorrow would be so big that it would be the end of her life or whatever it is.
Hmm.
But apparently, according to what Badger thought, that the second that she saw him laying there, that he collapsed and died, I guess. Her reaction to it is that she immediately went and swallowed a bunch of pills. Now, and then they found her in whatever condition they found her, and it all happened, very quickly,
Yeah,
seemingly.
yeah.
Now, if that were the case, the only big issue that I have is that, and I've said it before, I've said it all day. If in fact that was the situation, the fact that she left like a dog in like kind of a cage or a kennel or whatever it is, and that dog died, that really bothers me. I know that's a weird thing in the middle of all of this to say if that's the case. I don't want to jump to conclusions. Maybe it's not the case. Maybe there's another explanation. But the fact that like they couldn't leave like she couldn't leave like food and water for the dogs, that kind of bothered.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends. If the dog, we don't know if it was in a kennel or a cage, or if it was just in a closet, if it was shut in the closet, or if it curled up in the closet later. If she did, in fact, and people do strange things when they're in grief, right? Maybe she was just so overcome with finding him, deceased, that she did go and take her own life. She couldn't imagine living without him, or was just in such grief that she decided to take that very rash action. If in fact she did collapse and spill these prescription pills all over the floor, whatever they were, we haven't actually been told what they were. But if she did that, the if the dog was not locked up and found the pills and ate them, then that could explain it. I don't know. It's strange. Yeah.
I'm gonna give
Eh,
like the
we'll have to wait
authorities.
and
Yeah, I'm
we'll
gonna
have
give.
to wait until the investigation is done to hear something of it, because I think we're getting sort of half the story.
We're
Uh,
not getting all the details,
yeah.
so I'm trying to look at tributes. I know Tom Hanks isn't very popular amongst people, but he said, "There's never been a Gene Hackman type. There's only been Gene Hackman. That's fine." Bill Murray says Hackman was really difficult. Uh, okay, he was. I mean, Bill Murray himself is very difficult. He was a tough nut, Gene Hackman, but he was really good. He was really difficult. Like we can say it now, but he was a tough guy because older, great actors do not give young directors much of a chance. They're really rough on them. He was a great one. He was a great actor. Okay, John Cusack. All these, like Bill Murray, I like him, but they're really not helping me here with these things. John Cusack says Hackman's work was searingly truthful. Rip Gene Hackman, an all-time great, one of the most influential screen actors ever. There was nothing he couldn't do. His work was searingly truthful and often brutally honest. He never let you off the hook, not afraid of ambiguity. a lost quality these days. Lucky and grateful to share the screen with him. Rip Gene. You should be considered lucky because you're such a weasel. Michael Chiklis calls Hackman one of a kind. I'm trying to think when was he in a movie with him? I can't remember of a movie that he did with him. Oh well.
Hmm. Yeah.
Although I did like him in The Shield. He says his hero Hackman is gone. Hurts when your heroes pass. Thank you, Gene. You are one of a kind. Mel Brooks reveals how Hackman came to be cast in Young Frankenstein. I was privileged to know Gene Hackman because he played tennis with another Gene, Gene Wilder. Gene told him about a little role called the Blind Hermit in our movie Young Frankenstein. He said, "Do you think Mel would let me play it? I've always wanted to do a comedy." Needless to say, I was over the moon and he was perfect. Yeah, I mean, he was a great actor. Dan Aykroyd looks back fondly on working with Hackman as loose cannons. Not sure I've seen that one. What does he say about him? Sorry. Pouring two headshots, one in sorrow, one in celebration for the loss and for the life and career of the great Gene Hackman. Made a deep.
He really couldn't post a tribute without hawking his tequila or vodka or whatever.
Yeah, I don't really know what that is. Is that his tequila? Like
Is
that's.
that what he's saying? Headshots? Yeah, because he's talking about his booze.
I thought maybe it had something to do with the movie that they were in, but I guess no. They're just hawking his thing. Maybe picture with Gene and Dom DeLuise. We laughed together the whole fiasco. Gene told me you only needed 4 instructions from directors: louder, softer, faster, slower. He'd work well then with George Lucas then. Gene Hackman reflected on fear of dying in 2004. Let's see what he said. I have the normal fear of passing away. I want to make sure that my wife and my family are taken care of. Uh-oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I was going to play it, but then it did this weird thing. Gene Hackman and wife were deceased for quite a while before bodies were discovered. Yeah, I guess they'll do the Gwyneth Paltrow pays. Some of these people are really annoying. I mean, I don't have anything personal against Gwyneth Paltrow, I guess. Let's see what she says.
You gotta love the goop, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to think, she just put a picture with him. I don't think she said anything. Oh, well.
Hmm.
That was quite a tribute. Hackman's family breaks silence. It's with great sadness that we announce the passing of our father, Gene Hackman, his wife, Betsy. Was loved and admired by millions around the world for his brilliant acting career, but to us who always see just dad and grandpa, we'll miss him sorely and are devastated by the loss. All right. I think we covered a lot of ground here. And yeah, I mean, it's obvious it's a huge loss when it comes to the, classic Hollywood, but he's been kind of, retired for many years. I will give him one thing, maybe it was that final Ray Romano movie which kind of was crappy, but he didn't embarrass himself. He didn't start doing stuff like I actually think that the idea of kind of lowering your profile and going just to mind your own business and sort of walking into the twilight, I don't think that's bad. You know what I mean? Like sometimes
Mhm.
at some point maybe you don't need to make any more movies. Maybe it's time to kind of say, okay, I had a good career. I'm happy with it. I'm moving on now. I mean, how old do people want to see you on the screen? I guess at least from his
Yeah.
perspective. So yeah, that's Gene Hackman. There was other stuff going on. I think we skipped something, maybe because of the whole Gene Hackman thing. I guess what's going on now, you have Trump with his tariffs.
Yeah, the things have been changing, a little bit here and there.
Do you
Consi
think he's really going to go through with them? Because I feel like, I initially said it and it seemed like he was trying to scare Canada and Mexico and things like that. Do you think he's really going to move forward with it?
you know, I I kind of think he is, honestly. I think he is going to move forward with it this time. I don't know if there's anything else that would change between between here and there that would deter him from those tariffs. He seems pretty set on getting them in place. So um, I think how many days? It's like 5 days or something from now is when they're supposed to go into effect.
Yeah, I think so.
So
I mean,
gosh, I
didn't
don't
they
know.
have a whole month to work out something with him? Wasn't there something that's like, okay, I'll postpone it for a month. We'll work on a deal. Wasn't the idea
That's
like that they
that's what
were?
I thought. I thought the idea was
Yeah, I mean, they said they're gonna send the troops, they're gonna do something, but now it's again not good, and I don't know. Uh,
it all seems very strange. Yeah.
I mean, I listen, I'm not an expert in this kind of stuff, but all I can say is that I kind of wish that he had waited longer. You know, it's fine if he kind of ruffled their feathers initially, and then, like, they made some promises, and he should have maybe given them a little more time to implement them or to work out something. To
Mhm.
immediately go into this tariff thing again, from what I can tell, it's not too good for the market. Uh, I guess the idea is that at the beginning, the market, you have, like, a negative downturn, and maybe long term this somehow works out, but I don't really know. It's I don't think it's a good time to test the market like this, personally.
There's been a lot of changes that have been going on in the market recently, and it seems, yeah, right, or just going on in general as part of what's happening in this administration. And yeah, it does seem like potentially this might be a little rushed, but yeah, who knows?
I don't know, I saw people were also saying that today was, like, the worst day for the Trump administration until now, and, like, the new
People,
Trump
well,
administration.
people were not happy about everything that happened with the release of the Epstein files today, with that being such a dud.
I understand,
Everyone
but
was
you know what? I also think that a lot of these people, a lot of these people have grown spoiled because uh, we had for 4 years people that, an administration that took them ages to do anything. I think that relatively speaking, from the day he's, become president, he has seemingly, keeps trying to do a lot of stuff. Maybe some of it is better than other stuff, but he does seem rather active. I think that when you vote for a politician, any politician, you have to be somewhat realistic. They're like, "Oh, you said on day one," and then, like, it's like a month and something later he's working on it. You know what? Most people, they say on day one, and then, like, you find them after 4 years, and then they don't even remember what they said on day one. I think that relatively speaking, he was working on it. I don't really know what happened. That, like, oh, they're releasing it in phases or something like that. I don't really understand what went down with it, but I'm not saying that it's not an important issue for somebody, but the fact that everybody's like, "Oh no, like, well, like, this is such a disaster, like this, like, your whole life is, like, relying on this releasing this list." I mean, they didn't release it for years now. It's not like, so what? They're not releasing it all in one day. I don't really understand why this is, like, the biggest issue for everybody, personally.
I think they're convinced there's going to be some sort of a smoking gun there that is really going to just like blow people away. Oh, look at the people that are on this list. Oh, there's going to be. It's like some of the lists we've already seen. Uh, I get there's some names that are on it that might be curious, but yeah, I'm just not. I'm not one of those that's convinced that there's gonna be this smoking gun, that there's gonna be now hundreds of, hundreds of politicians that are now gonna be behind bars tomorrow because this list comes out.
Yeah, I don't think it works that way either. I don't know what's going to be on the list, what, everybody was expecting, but also the other thing is that some of these people that are on the list, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are guilty. Sometimes you had people. This guy was in, like, high society, like, rubbing shoulders with everybody, and the fact that he was there, it says something about high society, maybe in general. But I'm sure that there's people that have rubbed shoulders with him, that maybe, he had their information or whatever it is, and maybe they, I don't know for sure that if there's a list with people on it, that all those people are bad. I just don't know. It could be. I mean, it could be that he was just this kind of socialite, and some people genuinely didn't know about all this stuff. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It doesn't always mean that everybody is involved in it. So I don't know what kind of investigation they have to do or what they're looking for, but I assume that it's a complicated matter, and that everybody just, oh, on day one, there's so many things that need to be fixed here, especially when it comes to the economy and jobs and things like that. And as much as like this is sort of a spicy and salacious thing, I don't know if this is the most important thing, the way people are making it.
Yeah, there's so much. Dubros F 420 was saying, yeah, the Epstein and the Diddy list is stuff so overblown. Like, yeah, people just want some dirt on on people they don't like, and
It's the
so they're like, oh, get the list out so we can find out who was on this list.
Right. I mean, I understand that that this it becomes like a interesting thing for some people. As Phobos says, it's about accountability. The more crap they uncover and no one gets arrested, the more out of control everything looks. That's not good. Not just the list; it's everything. Listen, they came in there really, really looking to change things up. And usually in politics, things are very, very slow. Everything moves very slowly. It's like a process, it's very archaic. Everything moves slowly. Considering the speed of what usually happens in Washington, I feel like from the day, and again, whether you like what he does is a different story, because maybe some people may like some of his ideas or policies, some may not. But I'll say that one thing I think everybody would agree, he hit the ground running. He just came in and started from day. He's doing all this stuff of executive orders again and again. He's like he keeps doing stuff. He's not just doing nothing. And I mean that's something. You're not going to get everything you ever wanted in the world in one day. I mean that people thought that on the first day you would release it or whatever. And I kind of accept what the AG was saying, Pam Bondi, that she's saying this also involves victim. It's a little more delicate. We can't just like dump it all just as a list. And maybe there's something to that. And they also said that there's something that's being withheld from them, and I believe that too. But it feels like a process at least is starting. So it is what it is. I don't know. People get very greedy sometimes. Uh, I'm noticing this now. I've noticed it before. I told you this. There's this whole thing where there's gamers that they want to see, I guess, like naked women in their games, and then there's gamers that are more like considered Christian. They don't want to see naked women, even though they want to see them women. They're fine if the women look nice, but they don't need to see them, half naked or whatever it is. And recently, when I saw those kind of arguments between the two factions, I was telling you this that I think that this is like. We've become from like fighting something much bigger and important. It's become like to be able to even have those arguments now about like the thing that they're arguing about. It kind of it's almost like I don't want to use the word greedy, but it means like you're not appreciating so much tide that's changing and so many accomplishments if at the end you're fighting with another person that just a few minutes ago you were fighting alongside for something, that now you and them are at odds for some stupid thing that they want to see a naked woman and you don't. And I mean that in both directions. I told you at the time that really saddened me to see it, but more than anything it kind of annoyed me that people aren't looking at the big picture. It's the same thing also that happened with comics. Eric July was doing well. Suddenly, all these other people that were like supposedly all in the same movement, everybody's all at odds with each other. Why did he do well? They're not saying that, but that's what it seemed like. And I guess here people are like really they see that every day something is happening. They're finding money. They're doing this. They're doing that. And one day they don't have that high that everything is 100% the way they envisioned it, and everybody's like starting to complain. I don't know. It just I think that people don't have realistic expectations.
Yeah, it's getting just the whole thing with this Epstein client list thing just it's gotten so out of hand. Like there are the people that just say, well, if it's not released in a totally unredacted form and we get to see absolutely everything that was printed on it, then it's a cover up. And there's clearly, yeah, there are things that have to be redacted in that to protect some people who were victims. You can't just dump it all out there. That's not
I
how
I
that kind of
also
thing
I
works.
I agree with you first of all, and I assume that in some. as awful, what I'm going to say now is going to sound awful, but I think that it's realistic. If there is a situation that have to do with other countries and like top like officials in other countries, in some cases, even if there's something here, maybe it wouldn't be in the interest of the U.S. to talk about it. You know what I mean? I don't really know. I'm not in that position, but I'm just saying that I don't know exactly all the information they have. I don't know what it is that they want to share and don't want to share. But maybe this between the victims and perhaps situations that are a little more complicated than just saying, well, there's an American citizen that did something bad, let's like arrest him. Sometimes things on a world stage can be a little more complicated. So I don't really know. And people's obsession with this and some of the conspiracy theories and whatever are also kind of exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. And Emperor Goodwin in the chat has a good point. Part of why the things have been going so rapidly, moving so rapidly, is that they are trying basically to shock and awe. They're trying to chase down a lot of this stuff before the bureaucrats can cover it up. Right? If we just take time to do everything the usual way, and then there's going to be plenty of opportunity for people to realize that you know, their parents are coming home, they got to clean up the mess, right? So a lot of this, just sort of diving in and really just rapidly sort of attacking various different uh, departments within the government and stuff, like, oh, let us see your books, let us see your stuff, let's fire people, can people, do all this stuff. Yeah, it's all about this sort of a shock and awe campaign. Just show up, guess what, we're here, give us your stuff, we're going to look it over right now. And you're not going to give them time to try and hide all the stuff that they've been doing that it has been inappropriate.
Phobos says, to be fair, Bondi and Trump created some of those expectations. And I know some of you are saying, well, they said it would happen on day one. I personally, and I've said this before here, and I've said it many times. Uh, I've always considered politicians as something that, even if it's one that's saying things that seemingly interest me or don't interest me, I usually take them with a grain of salt. When somebody's on the campaign, many times they'll say, on day one, I'm going to do this, on day one, I'm going to do that. And then they arrive, and on day one, they don't, most of the time, they don't do 90% of what they say. Relatively speaking, if you like the things that Trump was saying, that he wanted to do on day one, at least to an extent, some of those things uh he did, or if not he did, he got the ball rolling on them. It's better in terms of politics. The fact that people think that on day one he's going to do 70 million things, get it all right, and like no mistakes and everything will be perfect. I think that's rather unrealistic. That's in my opinion, and I say this, again, like I say, the middle of the road thing. I don't love politicians or politics. Maybe that's the reason why. My whole life I've seen them promise things and they don't quite deliver. If you have a guy that's promising a bunch of stuff and, relatively speaking, at least like he's hitting the ground running, it's probably the best case scenario you can ask for.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, Biden promised lots of day one action too. Everyone does. Yeah, and Biden, I have to wonder how many of those he actually did anything with. Like, he seemed to, like, he was napping a lot and stuff. Six says it's called lying price Trump. Politicians in general, that this is the kind of stuff they do, and this isn't exclusive to one party or another. When it comes to politicians, you feel that sometimes you're going to be hearing some promises, and they're not going to exactly pan out the way they were promised. If you can get like a pretty decent percentage or some kind of effort, it's sometimes better than nothing. I guess I'm just a little more grounded and more realistic, and my expectations are just more managed. I can understand people's disappointment, but I don't know. I don't take it as seriously as other people. For me, I'm much more concerned about the tariff stuff because I feel like it really, really was damaging markets today, causing like rattling the market. That's a problem, I think.
Mhm.
Like, I prefer not to see that. So the fact that the whole like stock market is like tanking. That I don't love seeing.
It's not good, at least not for,
Right. I mean, he started off like he did the momentum. He's coming in and like everybody there, this market went up, correct?
yeah, in a lot of ways. Yeah.
But now, no, now it hasn't. Have you been following the market?
Somewhat, yeah. I do have some stocks and investments, so I do follow it some. So yeah, I mean, over the past few days, it's not been doing well. There's been a few reasons for that, but the threats of tariffs are definitely part of what's been affecting it. So yeah.
Do you think there's any kind of bounce back in this market, or are we like,
Oh, I think there is. Yeah,
you,
yeah.
you think that, what do you see? Because like you said, the past few days have been kind of brutal. So I'm wondering if he manages to resolve something with the tariffs, will it matter? If he just does the tariffs, will it matter? What's the end game here? If you know a little more than I do, maybe.
Well, I don't spend a lot of time looking at the market. It's not not my specialty. But one thing I will say, the market does like certainty. It likes to know what's coming. you know and when things are more erratic, when there's threats of things changing, that's when things get really messy in the market, especially if there are changes that the market and the analysts aren't sure how they're going to rattle out in the end, right? If there's changes that are there that they're looking forward to, that they think are going to benefit the markets considerably, yeah, that's going to help pump things up. But a lot of times, if there's things coming and they're just not sure how that's going to change things, that's when that uncertainty does tend to drive a lot of people to selling stuff off in the market. So um, there's been a few, like I said, a few different things that are affecting the market. Uh, the the tariffs are definitely one. You have some, you have some other stuff that's causing issues, specifically AI. As I think now some people are starting to recognize that we don't have a monopoly on amazing AI. There's plenty of other companies and countries that are able to build AI. And there's also, now I think a lot of people who are starting to doubt whether AI is suddenly going to be this amazing new thing that continues growing for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? There's some, a lot of concerns there, especially with the technology that goes into the big server farms and stuff. Specifically, Nvidia is one of the biggest companies that's involved in that. So they have lost a lot of value over the last few days.
But I again wonder if it's not something also with these tariffs, because really the market was doing pretty well, and then last month or whenever it is, before the month started that he said he was going to do the tariffs, everything kind of went sour, and then it seemed to have a bounce back, and then you're like, okay, he worked it out. They're gonna send troops or whatever it is, and it seemed like he was kind of taking a step back from these tariffs, and things seem to be sort of getting back into like a better situation. But now that we're getting closer and he's like, "I'm gonna do even more tariffs. I wanna do this. I wanna do that." I don't think that's helping personally. Could be
Yeah,
wrong.
no, it is definitely causing issues in the market. That's 100% contributing to it. The potential for 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada, 20% tariffs on China. There's threatened tariffs on vehicles coming in from outside the country if they're not manufactured in the U.S. Those are also coming up soon. Potentially tariffs of up to 20 to 25% on vehicles that are manufactured outside the US. Uh, all of those things definitely are concerning for the markets. So I think it's a lot of different things, but yeah, the tariffs are definitely part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not helping. I hope that there's a bit of a bounce back because it was a tough month in general. And I don't think it's healthy. But
Yeah, and hopefully, I honestly I do think, as it was before, I genuinely do think that the tariffs are intended not just to be something that's around forever, and drives up goods from outside the U.S. and now we'll make everything here. I think that they are very much intended to be a bargaining chip that he can use for other things. Now, if that works or not, we'll see, right? We'll have to wait and see exactly what it is he's hoping to bargain for and how low he's willing to lower those tariffs, change them. I don't know, or erase them completely. I don't think we've seen all the chips fall for this particular.
maybe not. I hope there's a plan
Bet yet.
here. I hope that there's a real plan here. Emperor Goodwin says, "Do you think there was some magic wand that would be waved in order to reestablish manufacturing within the U.S. that would cause no disruption? Maybe not. Time will tell if all of this stuff that we're seeing now is going to pan out or not. Um, yeah, I mean, time will tell.
Yeah, reestablishing manufacturing in the United States is gonna take some serious, it's gonna cause some pain, in the short term while we try to, get that investment back here into the US rather than, all of these companies that are invested in manufacturing products overseas. Because 'Cause we've been doing this, we've been shipping all of our manufacturing of every freaking thing you can imagine off to other countries, and manufacturing has just disappeared, here in the United States, and we saw w how potentially damaging that could be during the pandemic, right? We saw very clearly. We had, you know, trillions of dollars of products that were just sitting in ships that we couldn't unload because we couldn't get enough people. Uh, then we had, companies overseas that were saying, "Well, you know what? We manufacture all these drugs. We might just keep them for ourselves, for our own people, to help them. We're not gonna ship you the drugs." And that's when you look at all the stuff, life-saving medical treatment, life-saving drugs, things that our modern society depends on to extend our lives. Simple things like blood pressure medication, heart medications, or antibiotics. We don't make any of these here. They're all made overseas. They're all shipped over here afterwards. Other things like steel and whatnot, all made overseas and then shipped all the way back here because that's still cheaper than trying to, put manufacturing back into the United States. So there's a yeah, there's a lot that's going to have to be done, and no, it's not going to happen completely free of any kind of pain. It's not magically just going to happen overnight either.
yeah, I agree. I just I understand. Hopefully, there's a plan and something will end up turning out okay. But I understand that it's a complicated situation. We'll see also what happens the next few days. Also, the other thing is that pain is one thing, but such a sharp drop is like still noticeable. What we've been seeing, especially in the last few days. So I'm hoping there at least there'll be some bounce here. But yeah, that's just me. What do I know? And then I guess so. We went over Trump. We went over the Gene Hackman thing, and then we have Jeff Bezos, who's taking his MAGA turn.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was kind of funny today. Let me see if I can find this thing. Uh, Let me see where it is. His tweet was like unintentionally funny. Okay, let me share this. So basically, we've already seen this. When we had the elections, Jeff Bezos wouldn't endorse Kamala with the Washington Post. I think that was a sign. The main sign is that I think that he knew he as opposed to some of these legacy media, whatever, he kind of knew that the writing was on the wall and Trump had a real chance of winning it, which is probably why he didn't endorse Kamala. At the same time, you also had what's their faces. Mark Zuckerberg also had some complaints about the Biden administration suddenly, you saw that they must have known something. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah.
Like they kind of had a feeling that Trump was on his way to, to to win the White House. And then once he did, it seemed like they all went there. They went to his inauguration. They're looking to change what they're doing now. So today, Jeff Bezos said, "I shared this note with the Washington Post team this morning. I'm writing to let you know about a change coming to our opinion pages. We're going to be writing every day in support and defense of two pillars: personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by other offer sorry will be left to be published by others. This is interesting because, personal liberties and free markets, that's a very specific thing. And the fact that he's like anything else can be published somewhere else, that's a very telling sign. There was a time, and it also reminds me how Zuckerberg was suddenly like, oh, I believe in free speech. Freedom of speech is great. I love it. Goodbye. And like, I don't know. I feel like Bezos is doing something similar now. There was a time when a newspaper, especially one that was a local monopoly, might have seen it as a service to bring to the reader's doorstep every morning a broad based opinion section that sought to cover all views. Today, the internet does that job. I am of America and for America. Now he's Mr. America, Bezos. Proud to be
Mhm.
so. That's it. He just needs to put like his Make America Great Again hat on. Our country did not get here by being typical, and a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. Freedom is ethical, it minimizes coercion, and practical. It drives creativity, invention, and prosperity. I mean, what 180. Not that I think that this is disingenuous. He's just a businessman. Same with Zuckerberg. They're going where the wind is blowing, where the business wind is blowing. I
Yep.
offered David Shipley, whom I greatly admire, the opportunity to lead this new chapter. I suggested to him that if the answer wasn't hell yes, then it had to be no. And I think that's just funny. He walked into that guy. Probably that guy's like a hard left guy. This David Shipley. He walked in. He's like, "Hey, do you want to do like moving forward? Uh, this this publication is going to be like Make America Great Again. Are you on board? Like you have to say hell yes now, or you're out." And he's like, must have not said hell yes, because then it says after careful consideration, David decided to step away.
Mhm.
I can only imagine that the conversation probably didn't go over as smoothly as this paragraph would suggest. This is a significant shift. It won't be easy and it will require 100% commitment. I respect his decision. We'll be searching for a new opinion editor to own this new direction. Wow, this guy just like got thrown out with. I mean, they did give him a chance, but I mean, what were the odds of him going from being some hard left guy to like, make America great again? Or even if it's more to the right, or I don't really know how to the right they're going to go, but obviously this guy didn't want anything to do with it. And then I'm confident that free markets and personal liberties are right for America. I also believe these viewpoints are underserved in the current market of ideas and news opinions. I'm excited for us together to fill that void, Jeff. I wonder if he actually, if he actually means it. I mean, are we going to see a change for real? What
Oh,
do you think
sorry, you
is
caught me in the middle of a drink.
No,
Um,
what do you think? What do you think the change is gonna be?
oh, I mean, I think, yeah, he definitely wants to make some changes to that paper. I still think it's extremely creepy for a billionaire to own that paper, especially someone who owns Amazon. But um, will the change be real? I don't know. I really don't. Uh, it's interesting that since he wouldn't endorse Kamala, right? And so there were a bunch of people that were like, "Oh, we're leaving your paper because we're canceling our subscriptions because you won't endorse Kamala." And now he's announcing even more stuff like this, and I just wonder, like, okay, so who are his readers? Because I'm certainly not going to be one of them. I don't care what changes he's making to his opinion pages, right?
Right,
The opinion pages don't actually even matter all that much to me. It's they're for something like a newspaper. I want hard news. I want to have investigative journalism, and we just don't have that anymore. not like we used to.
Yeah, I guess.
But it
Well,
does I will say, yes, it does definitely have that feeling of, making changes so that they can keep the current administration happy, not something genuine, something there to try and curry favor.
yeah, I understand. Well, we'll have to see how this plays out. If nothing else, he's sending a message here, and it's something. We'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah.
Professor?
Yeah, yeah,
Still,
sorry.
no, it's
I
okay.
I continue to have audio issues on my end, we were talking about
Well,
before, so
oh, it's okay. Well, now I can hear you.
yeah, so it's really it's really weird. You see this kind of thing happening with these different sort of tech luminaries, right? Of course, Elon Musk has definitely gone full on MAGA, full on connecting with uh, Trump and helping in his administration, doing all sorts of stuff there. And then now you've got Jeff Bezos, and you've got everybody else. You've got Mark Zuckerberg, sort of like bending the knee and talking about how he wants to change things at Facebook and with all these other groups and all this other stuff under his purview. And so yeah, it's really interesting to see because before they were just so opposed to Trump, and they were going to do all sorts of things with their organizations, within their social media networks and their in their tech businesses and among all their tech buddies. They did all of these things to like just violently oppose, oppose everything that Trump was trying to do the first time around. And now it seems like they really do recognize that, his coming back into office isn't just a fluke, that he's incredibly popular and is actually leading a lot of movements that other people are very much invested in, and they don't want to be left behind. They don't want to be in the group that's going to be on the outs, not just with the administration, but potentially with the popular culture going forward, right? So yeah, it's almost surreal to see this happening with these
Yeah,
people who were so opposed earlier.
yeah. Emperor Goodwin is saying, yeah, Zuckerberg spends 500 million to subvert elections in 2020. Somehow is born again, principled, and stand for freedom of speech or something. There's a lot of hypocrisy in the world. There's no shortage of it, and there's no shortage of it amongst these type of billionaires. So it is what it is. Um, we'll have to see where it all plays out. It definitely signals some kind of shift. I feel like, at least the vibe, we're in a very different place now than we were, you know, a year ago. It definitely feels like something is different. In addition to all of that, we also have this ongoing saga. I almost am tired of even talking about it, but we'll go through it because, I think we addressed it before. Apparently, somehow Kathleen Kennedy has returned. We knew that we'd have to use
Somehow
that.
Kennedy returned. Yes.
Right. And then basically there's this article here. I'm probably not going to go through everything. It's just she's so annoying. It's like the most annoying article in the world. It's an article that's obvious. We were talking about it earlier. I was talking about it with Tom and Six and Script and a few other people. Uh, this Mike Fleming Jr. Did this? Is it sharing it?
Yes.
This Mike Fleming Jr., who's like, I think what's his role? He's the co-editor in chief film, on Deadline. This is a major shill. Major shill. I mean, this is not an article. This is like sometimes you have an article where somebody's sitting around and like and interviewing somebody, and then you see that there was an interview. This feels like some PR teams sat around and orchestrated something that seemingly resembles an interview. The amount of points that people have drafted here, PR people, maybe lawyers. You know what I mean? Like, keep in mind, Kathleen Kennedy has hundreds of millions of dollars. You better believe that like a team of people worked on this thing. There is an article here that from the first second, you know, it starts off not as an article. Is basically this guy, this let's see, what is it, Mike Fleming Jr. Let me see. Uh, let's see what this is, Mike Fleming Jr. Do you see him?
Oh yeah.
Mike Fleming Jr. I've seen a lot of like shill articles. I don't remember the last time I've seen like such a shill article as this one. This guy is like, you know, I would be embarrassed if I was like, you know, considered myself a proper journalist. You know, we are sort of independent commentators or whatever you want to call it, but I would be embarrassed to put something like that up. You know, it's fine if sometimes you want to be nice or you want to be kind, but there's a difference between that and what Mike Fleming does. The fact that he would be the co-editor in chief, you know, at least in the film section of whatever of this big industry trade, really embarrassing for, in my opinion, at least. So let me share this tab instead. I'll try to go through it quickly because I know it's just going to annoy me. But basically saying, I thought I'd seen it all in trade journalism, but the piranha-like frenzy on Kathleen Kennedy and the successor speculation that followed Matt Baloney's Puck report that Disney was putting her out to pasture and a new one is a new one on me. Baloney for years has been beating on Kennedy like she owes him money, and this week he reported Kennedy was retiring. I recall he essentially did the same thing more than a year ago, and yet she's still here, yeah, producing the Mandalorian movie and prepping the Sean Levy-directed Star Wars film that Ryan Gosling is circling, as well as numerous other films and streaming projects with alias participants. This is not a person. This is not a real person that's saying that. You're not real. This is not a real thing that a normal person would say. That you would even write this paragraph means that you have zero credibility. Zero, not even a little credibility. This is like an embarrassment. You know, I know this guy doesn't have any shame, but I feel shame for him because he should be ashamed of himself. This is just not. First of all, you know, pretending that not all of her projects have all fallen apart. You know how many times they've announced a project that
Oh, it's
nothing happens with it.
yeah.
And
I
in
think
this
they have
art,
like 14 projects that have been announced that have never come to pass.
never anything. And in this article, there's so much like nonsense. The thing is that she's like, oh, I'm waiting for a script from this guy. I'm waiting for a script from that guy. I'm waiting for a script from Taika Waititi. Oh, Sean Levy is going to give me a script. Oh, I'm waiting for this script. If you don't have a script and all your projects are nothing is happening with them, then you don't have shit. Sorry, Sean. You know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Still, the trades followed with gusto, dishing speculative reporting on who might succeed Kennedy. The takeaway was chaos that Kennedy was being pushed. The reality is different and far from orderly. This is all nonsense. Anybody with half a brain knows a lady that has lost billions of dollars in revenue and has had project after project fall apart. They wouldn't let her make movies anymore because of her flops. Then they don't even want to let her make TV shows anymore because they were awful too. What, she's hanging on to the Mandalorian? That's her big success. That's the one thing that initially Jon Favreau came and launched that show. She very quickly started interfering with it, and she like helped like ruin whatever it is that he was even doing. Not
Yeah.
that I'm even saying that what he was doing was perfect, but at least it was an effort to do something. She ruined that. This movie is not her baby. Like whatever this Mandalorian movie is, it's not her baby.
No.
So these are like the big things that she's talking about. And it's interesting in this article with this Mike Fleming weirdo that so little is talked about her failures. You know what I mean? According to insiders, Kennedy has been working on a succession plan for a couple of years. Come on, she hasn't been working on anything. And then eyeing candidates from within the process with the Bob Iger and Alan Bergman that puts somebody like Dave Filoni, who knows the universe inside and out, in strong position. Dave Filoni is like, you know, she's been kind of creating this illusion that Dave Filoni is the guy for a few years now because he's basically he's a very poor fit for the role, and because he's sort of this like, you know, this pushover that she can just like, just smack around. That's the one that she keeps saying, "Oh, it's Dave Filoni, it's Dave Filoni." Dave Filoni is not going to save Star Wars. He's not
Uh-uh.
capable of saving it. Dave Filoni, at best, if you have like a few people that are top executives that know what they're doing and they have a vision, and Dave Filoni has to be in charge of like an animated series with a vision already intact, maybe he can do like a halfway decent job. Maybe he can do even a decent job. He's not a guy, he got his shot. He got his shot with Ahsoka. He's not good enough you know, to be
Oh
in
yeah.
this position.
No, Dave Filoni has no business running the studio. He's
Now, this sentence I want to show that it says, "I admire Baloney's hustle." Now, I've used this sentence before, and usually when I use it, I'm not saying maybe I've used it before and I used it in a place where it was positive, but usually when somebody says that about you, it's almost like saying like baloney's like a little, an insignificant little shit, but you know what I mean? It's like I admire baloney's hustle is like a very talking down to baloney. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that baloney is like I don't think highly of him, but I probably think even less of Mike Fleming Jr. I believe my impression, and I said this also, in a conversation with Tom and Andre, who had his theories, and a few other people. Um, I think that basically Baloney was tipped off. I feel like somebody at Disney gave him this information because maybe they wanted Kathleen Kennedy at this point to already like say, okay, this is the successor. I'm going to be leaving something. And because she hasn't been doing anything and hadn't been saying anything, they thought maybe they dropped this little nugget to to this guy who is maybe a hustler. Uh, I mean, hustler. The thing with Baloney is Baloney used to be, I think, the editor of the Hollywood Reporter, and then he got up one day and he made it seem like he's now going independent. He's like you and me, Professor. You know what I mean?
yeah,
He's kind of like just all independent. He's not like bound to anybody. He's just doing his thing, bringing you like really accurate from information from like the best sources, and like everything is independent. The truth is, he's no different than all these other people. All of them are part of the same kind of hypocrisy. They have their alliances, they have their relationships, and I've said this to you last time that basically one of his first orders of business is that he hired Scott Mendelson to write for him. Which Scott Mendelson, like all these rejects, basically these kind of shill rejects from other papers that were shill newspapers. Now, like the B team of shills is fighting like the A team of shills. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I don't know how it's like a battle of the shills, like Puck and like these other trades, and that's why like I have no respect. I don't really care. Yeah, I mean I read these trades, and sometimes you can find something useful because they do know these people. But most of the time, all of these places when they write something, it has a narrative already attached to it, and there's probably a reason they wrote it. I don't think that Baloney just got up one day and decided to like write that article. I think there's a reason why he did it. And then, okay, he admires his hustle and ability to turn over hard ground, but his penchant for defining industry people like Kennedy in disparaging ways, well, I just don't understand that. There's nothing, I mean, again, I don't have anything good to say about Baloney, but there's really nothing to say disparaging about her. She ruined the best franchise in the world, and she lost billions of dollars in the process. Usually, when you're given like the best thing, and all you have to do is is just kind of do an okay job, and it'll continue to just make billions of dollars, and you come in a malicious, bitter, miserable, crappy way to make people like miserable and suffer watching your shitty thing. Sorry, Sean. I don't think that at that point that's considered disparaging. You know what I mean? Like the results speak for themselves, or lack of results. And then that's before I even mentioned the hotel. That hotel lost billions. That sequel trilogy was a disaster. Her shows, I didn't appreciate it when Deadline founder Nikki Finke did it here, and I feel like the appetite for Schadenfreude is now nowhere near as high now, given how this business is still trying to regain footing after the global pandemic, the year-long labor strikes, and most recently the devastating wildfires that ravaged Southern California. None of this has to do with her failures. You know what I mean? The global pandemic has nothing to do. The Last Jedi came out before. Rise of Skywalker, which cost $500 million to make and lost money at the box office, even though Disney lied and made it seem like it made money. And until today, all these kind of deadlines refuse to admit that it lost money because they're liars. So the fact that they're trying to make it the pandemic and the fires were recent. The fires have nothing to do with her. Her being the worst studio head ever has nothing to do with the recent fires. I'm sorry there were fires in LA, and yes, some companies don't want to work there even before the fires. Has nothing to do with the fact that she's very bad at her job. And the strikes had nothing to do with it either. The strikes and the fires happened so late in the game that there's nothing for you to say. Even the pandemic, I would still say that she failed miserably with movies and everything else before that. Do you have anything to add, Professor?
No, I just yeah, it's so ridiculous to try. Oh, oh, we're gonna say, oh, she's been so amazing. She's done such a great job. Oh, and she's shepherded this amazing company through all this time. Oh God, please stop. We all know it's lies. Like,
It's like it just annoys me that they continue to do this. They have no, when we talk about like, oh, the legacy media can't die fast enough and whatever. I don't always like use that saying, but you know what? After reading this article, that kind of crossed my mind. I said, you know what? I've had it with these people. This is just like this game of charades is a disgrace. It's a disgrace to anybody. I know I'm not saying that I'm like Woodward and Bernstein or whatever it is, but this is a disgrace for anybody that calls himself like a reporter of any kind or an editor-in-chief of something or whatever he's supposed to be. Kennedy would seem an unlikely target for ire in good times or bad. No, she seems a very likely target. 30 years into her run steering Lucasfilm, she has done much with the challenge of trying to broaden. She hasn't. She has not. She canceled the EU. She didn't try to broaden anything that George Lucas did. She tried to ruin it and replace it with her stupid self-inserts and her, identity politics. It's a challenge Amazon now will try with James Bond after purchasing creative control from 007 gatekeepers for $1 billion beyond the $8 billion that they paid for MGM. This is another kind of diversion, trying to be like, look, we didn't. Not only Disney bought like something for $4 billion. Sometimes these other look at Amazon. They bought this and they're trying to make it seem like they bought it for $8 billion. They bought MGM for $8 billion. That's MGM. I believe has a catalog that has a lot of movies in it beyond what happened with Bond. Am I correct?
yeah.
It has like MGM has a catalog of a lot of movies. So if they paid $8 billion for it, they're getting a catalog of a lot of movies, in my opinion, from what I remember. So it's a brand. They didn't just buy James Bond for $8 billion, which is trying to trick you into thinking that. Almost tricking you into think, oh, she didn't lose so much money. Look at how much Amazon are paying. But that's not the same thing. This is apples and oranges. And at the same time, this $1 billion that they now paid or whatever, it has nothing to do with her. Whatever Amazon does with James Bond, it could be great. It could be crappy. Most likely it'll be crappy. Has nothing to do with Kathleen Kennedy or her failures. She's a failure, and that's it. Kennedy is arguably the most successful female producer executive in Hollywood history. Again, they don't bother mentioning it. She was successful as long as she worked under the likes of Steven Spielberg, Lucas, Martin Scorsese, things like that. She has never brought to the table anything creative, really, that she proved that she was successful at. I guess like on paper, you could say she's a successful executive, whatever. In the context of Star Wars, when it comes to when she's like, she's the top dog, she is one of the worst ever. When it comes to being like a creative visionary, running a franchise, the worst ever. Whatever she
Oh,
did with
terrible.
Spielberg, yeah,
Absolutely terrible.
whatever she did with Spielberg is not relevant to this conversation here. She has produced more than 70 films that collected 120 Oscar noms and 25 wins. She herself awarded the honorary Oscar, blah, 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 with 8 other Oscar noms. Her resume is dotted with classics, includes Jurassic Park, The Sixth Sense, Indiana Jones franchise, E.T., Munich, Lincoln, The Color Purple, War of the Worlds, Poltergeist, Schindler's List, the Back to the Future franchise, and so many others. Yes, none of these are movies that she sat and she said, I have a vision. All of these movies have been like, Spielberg or a combination of Spielberg with, with Lucas or And there's like one M Night Shyamalan here or something, and some of those like Jurassic Park and Shyamalan and whatever. In addition to Jurassic Park having like Spielberg, you also had her husband Frank Marshall, who was also really dominant here.
Mhm.
Meaning the one time that she was on her own, that they said, "Okay, here's the keys. Let's see what you can do." She took the best franchise in the world and ran it into the ground, and did it in an almost kind of malicious, a combination of being malicious, stupid, and malicious, stupid, and what's the final thing I'm looking for? And incompetent. Yes.
Incompetent.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that very correct. That's what I was thinking. While it has always been a challenge to please the Star Wars faithful, and there have been some misfires, the 5 Star Wars films she has produced have grossed nearly $6 billion, with streaming series success topped by The Mandalorian and Andor. Okay, so much wrong. It's like every sentence here is just is a crock of shit. This is just like you're living. This is an alternate universe. Whatever this thing is saying. Again, want to highlight Mike Fleming Jr. You're not an editor in chief. This I'm demoting you now. You're not an editor in chief. You're at best like a shill, a chief shill. I don't know if there's a title of chief shill, but you
Shill in chief.
like the shill in chief or whatever it is. That's the best I can give you. Uh,
I love their constant references to, "Oh, it's been such a challenge to try to please the fans, the Star Wars faithful." It's like, no, actually, it was never really a challenge. All you had to do was stick to the characters and the character arcs that were built for us in the first 3 films, the movies that launched this enormous studio, this empire of film. You just stick to the characters, right? And you honor those characters while also taking the time to introduce some new archetypes and some new characters, and you then write those characters in such a fashion that they fit in the universe and make sense in the hero's journey, which has always been at the center of the Star Wars tale. Instead of saying, well, we're just going to take all the characters that existed before, we're going to crap all over them, we're going to make them all miserable and horrible, and we're all going to celebrate when they die. And then we're going to introduce new characters, but the only new characters that are going to be interesting are women. That's, I mean, that's what they did. All you
yeah,
had
that's
to do
exactly what they
was
did.
take what you were given. Take this amazing story that you were given, take these characters that you were given. Hell, take the extended universe that was handed to you on a platter, and instead of being a, I don't know what, chicken shit or whatever, and say, "Oh, we're not gonna use any of
Storytelling.
that stuff because we don't wanna have to pay some authors some royalties. No, we're gonna write our own stories." You had a whole universe of stories that had been told that could have been adapted into work that could have been part of the Star Wars universe. But instead of doing that, instead of adapting the incredibly popular, incredibly well written Timothy Zahn novels, nope, we're going to throw all those away, but we're going to keep Thrawn, except we're going to ignore everything about Thrawn that made Thrawn the character that he is. Oh, yeah, he's going to be this fat dude who's only as smart as the dumbest writer that they have on staff,
They made
right?
him like the Elon Musk of the Star Wars universe or whatever it
It
is.
was it was embarrassing,
It
right?
was, it was, it
In
was really they
in
made him
those
such an idiot.
books Thrawn was 2 steps ahead of everyone.
I agree.
He
They
was
made him
he always had there were plans, the plans within plans, right? From Dune, right? But he was always thinking way ahead of everybody else, and he understood not just the enemy that he was facing, but tactically he also understood who they were as a species, as a people, and the way that they think. And so he was able to outsmart people because he was just this tactical genius. And there was never, oh, I'm going to send out these ships and let them get blown up exactly as I planned, right? It's like that was it's just so dumb. But it's so stupid that, oh, it was so hard to keep the Star Wars faithful happy. What you're really saying is there were lots of ists and phobes out there who didn't like what Kathleen Kennedy was doing because she was a woman and because the characters that she introduced were too diverse for the bigots.
That's what they're implying here. Yes, I mean they at least they were wise enough not to spell it out as bluntly, at least in this paragraph, as they have in the past. But obviously, this is just gaslighting at its finest. And the thing with the $6 billion, the films that she produced, it's also an inaccurate way to describe it because The Force Awakens, and I've said this, and again, like a broken record. You make a movie, Yoda sitting on his toilet reading stories, $2 billion you'll make even on that movie. Everybody was so hungry at that moment, itching for like a Star Wars movie. And the second they said there's a new Star Wars movie, that was going to make billions. Uh, it, I think that she had more working for her than against her with that movie. And then, like, The Last Jedi was already like a drop. If The Force Awakens, I'm not going to look at the numbers, but I think it's something like 2.1 million, it's 2.1 billion, worldwide. The Last Jedi was already like 1.3 billion. That is a huge decline. That is a huge decline from movie to movie. And the thing is that The Last Jedi was the one that had Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker was the thing that everybody wanted to see. That was Luke's big return. Everybody was going to go see that movie. Initially, everybody did go see that movie. That was a movie that if like Luke was awesome in the movie, just kind of longtime fans, many of them, they probably would have seen this movie like 7 times each person. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like that's what happens when you really like, get like the fans of something like this excited, and they were all waiting for Luke to return. You would have done something respectable. I think this thing would have, could have made Force Awakens style numbers. The fact that it didn't, it showed that there was an issue. And then Rise of Skywalker, they can say 6 billion or whatever it is, but that movie lost money. Rise of Skywalker they kept saying that it cost like $250 million to make. And like as usual, they didn't mention about the reshoots and all that stuff. It cost closer to like half a billion, where I don't even know how much marketing they put into it. And I think that at the box office it made like 1 billion and 40 or something like that. Now it probably needed to make like 1.2 billion to be profitable. Maybe if it's a miracle somehow and they got some deductions that I don't know about, maybe if they're lucky, they broke even. That's like the luckiest they may have gotten with Rise of Skywalker. And then you have the movie Solo. That one was lost money.
Yeah.
So you have that, and Rogue One, again, Rogue One is another one of those. You think, "Oh, well, it made like $1 billion." Yeah, I mean, it's a movie that they had to film twice. Again, it showed exactly the type of problems we would see later. Only in that case, instead of like firing the director mid movie the way she did later, she brought Tony Gilroy to secretly, write and direct like the third act again or whatever it is, and change the movie, maybe even save it. But at the end, okay, so
Yeah.
that movie made like 1 billion. We don't know how much it cost with all their weird crap that you need to reshoot, a third of the movie. That also could have been something that made some money, but not as much as it could have. And they don't mention the hotel here. They don't mention the Acolyte, which cost hundreds of millions, and nobody even wanted to watch it, along with some of her other stinker shows. So yeah, and the Mandalorian, that's not really her success. I think that if there was anything good about The Mandalorian in season 1 and 2, I would give the credit mainly to Favreau. Whether you like it or not, it was more his project until I think she ruined it.
Yeah.
And Andor, fine. Andor, because it was Tony Gilroy that actually is not completely incompetent, he saved Rogue One, so maybe because of that, she gave him enough of like a carte blanche that she just said, "Fine, do whatever show you want." That's the one guy that she allowed, like, to do that. And maybe that's why the show isn't as terrible as some of the other ones, even though it's not perfect either.
Yeah.
Do you wanna add anything?
No, I think you're right. There were a bunch of different shows that had some potential. Uh, Mandalorian being the chief one, right? Its first season went extremely well, and the second season, while it was hit and miss, generally with the fans, it was well received, especially the finale with the return of Luke Skywalker. It felt a bit to a lot of people like an apology or maybe just a return to form, right? After after everyone had been so torn down by having seen Last Jedi and just kind of the overall mood of Star Wars and that return of Luke Skywalker and everything that was being told in those stories really felt like it was moving forward and maybe we would get to see oh hey, maybe now this third season gets to be it's just going to be Mando and he's going to be out there you know doing his Ronin thing where he's going to be out there being he's going to be out there as a bounty hunter going from town to town and chasing down the bad guys, who knows. But of course, then at least as far as we know, this rumors are that Kathleen Kennedy had to come in and get involved. She was mad about Luke Skywalker being in it. She was mad about sort of shuffling, their cash cow uh, with Baby Yoda, with Grogu, shuffling that off, of the screen and maybe becoming a less important character. So no, we got to get that character back. Got marketing involved. Oh, we're gonna lose so much money because Baby Yoda's not there. Not realizing that already Baby Yoda was kind of oversold. Like everyone was kind of done with it already. And but nope, no, we got to get that Baby Yoda back. So we're gonna start meddling with this show. And of course, it complete not that I know that Book of Boba Fett was going to be any good to begin with, but Book of Boba Fett was doubly ruined by the fact that like 3 episodes of it had nothing to do with the story. They had to go off and tell some Mando stories. And then, when the 3rd season of Mandalorian came back, it was a complete disaster. Every episode of that show was some of the most laughable garbage I've ever seen. And it just felt like everything that any creator tried to do that was good just got dumped on by Kathleen Kennedy and her team, right? That it could only be allowed to be good if it was her idea.
I agree, and she's I agree with everything you said. As far as this thing here, this guy continues to just be annoying. Sorry, Matt, this woman is a first ballot Hall of Famer, not someone who deserves to be batted around like a pinata. No, the fact that you think she's a stunning or pretending she's a stunning and brave woman doesn't mean she can't be criticized. And really, as much as I think that like Matthew Baloney guy is kind of like a weasel, and I don't think very much of him, I read his article. It wasn't any kind of pinata. He just said like he actually was kind of kissing her ass as well. He's like she's a legendary producer. She didn't do so well with Star Wars. She had a mixed track record. That's a pinata. You want a pinata? You come on this stream. What's this Mike Fleming? Is that his name? Mike Fleming Jr. You come on this stream and I'll show you what a pinata looks like. That guy pussyfooting around, saying that how stunning and brave she is. That guy wasn't doing a pinata. She also deserves to own her own narrative and demystify this pseudo drama. She doesn't deserve shit. She doesn't deserve anything. What she deserves is that probably around 7 years ago, I've said it and I'll say it. I'm like a broken record again. Security should have come to her office and said, ma'am, we're going to need you to come with us and we're going to need your security card and all that crap. Like, we need it now. And then she'd be like, what are you doing in my office? I need to make a call. Ma'am, you're being escorted off the property. And then, like, a third person comes in with like a cardboard box and says, like, ma'am, if there's any belongings you want to put in here, and like, if there's a few pictures of her like family or whatever it is, she puts them in the box and that's it. They escort her out of the building. She's never allowed in the building again. The next thing that happens is Bob Iger needed to make like like the podium, a press conference, and say like, I want to apologize to all Star Wars fans. This franchise was run into the ground, and I'm I kind of a jerk off, and she did a terrible job, and we apologize. That was probably what needed to happen. And that was probably like 7 years ago. And if that didn't happen, all bets are off.
Yep, I think you're right. Oh, did Price disappear on me? Oh well, while Price is gone, I get to show you my little creation here. Oh, there's Price came back. $2 billion right here on screen.
It actually looks great. Yeah, this is a good movie. I would actually watch it. By the way, I wanted to ask you, where did I get cut off?
Oh, it was you were only gone for like a couple seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did I explain that they needed to escort her off the
Yeah,
property?
yeah, yeah.
At least that. Okay. Yeah, and this movie with Yoda on the toilet would have made money. This is a
Yeah.
great
I'd I'd
image.
I'd I'd sit there and listen to him for hours. Tell
Yeah,
tell tell us about, the whatever was on Thursday night, must see TV. Maybe just tell us a little bit, maybe regale us with some stories of, what the old Jedi Order or whatever, But
I don't know
the,
how I lost the
there's
thing.
another.
I love that they gave you like different angles.
You generated a couple for me here.
Nice. That's good stuff. It almost spelled TV Guide correctly.
Yeah, it almost got it there. Yeah, some of the newer models getting a lot better with text.
They are. So, yeah, I guess the bottom line is I was saying that they needed to apologize to fans and fire her years ago and do it in like a public way. Instead, like he's like, "Oh, you can't say that to her." And this is nothing. Deadline gave Kennedy that opportunity, catching her just before she headed off to be honored tonight with husband Frank Marshall at the Oscar Wilde Awards. This is another piece of crap. You know, First of all, this Oscar Wilde Awards, nobody gives a shit about it. It's something with like U.S. Ireland. I don't know what. It's nothing. Who cares
Oh,
about this thing?
the Oscar Wilde Awards are about, like, gay pride, gay
Oh,
representation in film.
I thought
Yeah.
that. Then I was reading and I thought it had something to do with Ireland. Whatever the case may be, it had
Maybe it's
no.
gay representation in film in Ireland, I don't know,
That
but,
would be funny. That's awfully specific. It's like the gay representation in Ireland is funny. Uh,
Irish representation in gay film, I don't know, I have no idea.
maybe it's one of those things. In any case, this thing that she's headed, that they're like, she was just about to leave to collect an award. That's like her PR people wrote this. This is no sane person would be writing this. This is an article that people are watching or scratching each other's backs, and I don't want to suggest that somebody got paid something for something, but this is an article by design. This is like an article on spec or whatever you want to call it. Deadline. So this is the questions. This is they write deadline, but it's not really deadline. It's Mike Fleming Jr. If you're so confident about what you're doing, Mr. Schill, why don't you just write that it's you? Why are you pretending it's deadline? It's like it's Mike the Shill Fleming. Okay. We've read all these speculation reports that you're out, that there's a frenzy for the next person who's going to take over Lucasfilm. What is the truth? The truth is, and I just want to say it loud and clear, I'm not retiring. I will never retire from making movies. I will die making movies. That's like so not promising.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
that is the first the thing that's important to say. I'm not retiring. What's happening at Lucasfilm is I've been talking for quite some time with both Bob and Alan about what eventual succession might look like. It's
yeah,
like the thing is that even as much as I don't like people, don't prefer people like Iger or like what's his name, like Kevin Feige or whatever it is, at least when they were like, said that they needed to bring a successor, there's some years that they can show receipts that Disney made money under their leadership. You may think that maybe it was a fluke. It wasn't a fluke. You could say a bunch of things, but Bob Iger can show like reports that there were years that were there, that there was actually like real profits happening. Kevin Feige can show that there were years that the MCU works. So if these guys say, hey, it's important that I have a successor, even though like, of course, like Bob Iger was kind of like Putin. He said he wanted a successor and got like a guy that's not as, that he just wanted to get rid of. But I'm still saying that as much as I don't prefer their antics or even, them, they at least have some little thing that they could say that they once did that made some money. You know what I mean? Kevin Feige can say that the MCU in its prime made billions of dollars. Kathleen Kennedy can't say anything. She doesn't have she doesn't have those receipts. She's a failure that's lost billions and billions of dollars after she was given like the best and most profitable IP. So I don't know, why would she have any kind of say in Succession, and why would they even want her opinion in Succession?
yeah, it's silly. I have no idea why. Yeah, I mean, we're literally talking about a woman who took over a money printing machine in Lucasfilm. They could put out action figures, they could put out books, comics, films, money printing machine. Even during the time of the prequel trilogy when the movies weren't as well received, still money hand over fist from all of the other things outside of the actual box office itself. They buy this studio for $4 billion, and I guarantee you they haven't made that money back. There's no way. They're throwing money away like crazy on ridiculous garbage like The Acolyte. They make movies that cost insane amounts of money, like Rise of Skywalker. They make crap that didn't have proper guidance, that probably didn't have a script before they started shooting it, like Solo. And it's just been a disaster from the get-go. Was the first movie out of the gate, was The Force Awakens big at the box office? Of course it was. It was the first new Star Wars movie in a decade, and it made a bunch of money because it was always gonna make a bunch of money. Everyone was gonna go see this movie. It was the first Star Wars movie made outside of the guidance of George Lucas, and everyone wanted to see what they could do with it.
Not to mention that I'll say something else. Whatever you feel about the prequels or whatever it is, based on the popularity of the original ones, and then whoever you know, like the prequels or whatever it is, it built like somehow built another audience.
Uh-huh.
Between those six movies, there were already a few generations of people that were willing to see what's next for Star Wars, plus
Yes.
like a new generation that's being told that like Star Wars is the best. So I think that when Force Awakens came out, and I was at the theater like on opening night, and I
Yeah.
also went
Me
with like,
too.
friends of mine, and they brought like, relatives and children and young people and older people. It was a mix of people from all generations, all like walks of life, all like demographics. Everybody went to see that movie because it was an event. But the thing is that she ruined that whole magic event. I don't know if you remember, like a Star Wars movie used to be like a magical feeling. Wow, there's a Star Wars movie. It was a big deal. It was a big event. Uh, the Force Awakens, even though now like we're looking at it and we know it's like, crappy, and it led to those two other crappy movies. On the eve of its release, everybody was going for the big event. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah.
was the event of the year. It was not some bullshit thing. Sorry, Sean. It was the event of the year. So yeah, the fact that that one made money is just like, that they're even trying to pretend she did something so great is ridiculous. And then Kathleen Kenny, not retiring, blah, blah, blah. We have an immense, amazing bench of people here. We have every intention of making an announcement months or a year down the road. We are in lockstep as to what that's going to be, and I am continuing. I'm producing the Mandalorian movie right now. Now, I said that I thought that like that baloney guy was tipped off because one of the things that he was saying in his article is that moving forward, she's not going to have so much to do with with the Mandalorian. And here she's like front and center. I'm producing the Mandalorian movie right now. Like it's a very conflicting narrative, and I don't think that that guy would have said that unless somebody kind of nudged him to say it. Because he could have just said whatever the rumor is. The fact that he mentioned that baloney guy, he's like, oh, like she's gonna have to let somebody else have like work on the Mandalorian. It was a very specific comment. Do you get
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you think about it, it was a very specific comment. That's what leads me to believe that he got like tipped off. I'm also producing Sean Levy's movie, which is after that. Again, another one of these projects. What is this movie? Is there a script? Is there anything? Who? What's happening with it? So I'm continuing to stay at Lucasfilm and looking very thoughtfully with Bob and Alan as to who's stepping in. So all that is underway, and we have every right to make that announcement when we want to make it. I still think this is my opinion, and it's been that way pretty much, for throughout. I think from when this started developing, is that Bob and Alan probably sat with her and said, "Kathy, why don't you announce like that you're retiring at the end of the year, and we'll start working out a plan. You'll get a bunch of awards. We'll say that you're the best thing ever, and you'll be on your way." And she probably just kept stalling them. And if she's stalling them and they can't do the announcement, Not to mention they also have a trial with Gina Carano, things like that, that could also, she could be a person that they could throw under the bus if that goes sour. So,
Mhm.
and say, oh well, she's on her way out anyways, or whatever it is. So I think that they had an interest here in expediting this process along. And when she probably just did what she usually does of like, well, I'll see what happens, I'll leave when I'm ready. So I think that at this point, and yes, this is something that WDW Pro said when, he said something, what's his face, that they were like Bidening, they were doing like a Biden thing. And
Yeah,
I told him that I thought that George Clooney, like Matthew Baloney, was like the George Clooney of the whole equation. That makes sense.
I see. Yeah.
Anyhow, deadline that you are looking within and then seems to give credence to what we've heard, that an exec like Chief Creative Officer Dave Filoni is in a good position as he works on a Star Wars to write and direct. Now, the fact that they even mentioned this gives me the feeling that she planted this, meaning it's not that like Mike Fleming Shill Fleming or whatever his name is. It's not like, I don't think that's his name now. I don't think he should be called Mike Fleming anymore. I think he should be called Shill Fleming
Still
Jr.
Fleming?
Shill
Okay.
Fleming Jr., that's his name. So I think that Shill Fleming was given this to say Dave Filoni, because maybe in Kathleen Kennedy's world, she's lobbying for somebody like Filoni. Filoni is the bumbling, bumbling. I don't want to say bumbling fool, but she figures that that's a good one to put in there. She's not looking for like somebody fancy to be there, you know.
Agreed.
So
Yeah.
So yeah, so I can't say who it is because there's just an internal process that goes on. A larger corporation and public. Just shut up. You're such an annoying. Sorry, I don't want to say it. As to how we go about making deals, finalizing decision making. What are you drowning me in corporate bureaucracy? Shut up. You lost millions of dollars. Just shut the fuck up already. Sorry, Sean. There's nothing unusual about that, and we're in that process. No, there's no process. You're not in a process. You're the biggest failure in entertainment ever. The deadline, this flurry of press coverage, it sounds like chaos. What's the reality? Chaos? There's never been any chaos because we know exactly what the plan is. Never been any chaos. Do you know how many projects you have that have fallen apart? You've had movies that were filmed and then like Solo. The whole movie was filmed for hundreds of millions of dollars. Then the movie was scrapped. You fired the directors. Then you had to hire Ron Howard and he had to refilm the movie. And then the movie got released. You didn't even say what the real budget was. It lost money and it lost even more money than anybody know. You know what I mean? So it's like no chaos. What happened to Patty Jenkins and her stupid project? You know, what happened to the Game of Thrones people with their stupid whatever? What happened to Sharman lady, Mrs. Sharman? Mrs. Sharman. What happened to her movie? And Ray and the Thing and all, and Ryan Johnson's trilogy, Taika Waititi's stupid shitty movie. The Acolyte, Book of Boba Fett, chaos. There's never been any chaos.
No chaos. Nope.
And this, I'm not going to be here forever. Actually, I think you are going to be there
You
forever.
just might be, actually.
Listen, at the end, maybe they'll have to fire her, but they don't want to. It's like almost she knows that they don't want to fire her, and then she'll just continue to do this. George asked me 13 years ago to step in, and now I'm looking at who's going to replace me. Again, this is another story that I don't believe. I always say this. George made the mistake of hubris. He didn't believe that they would do a movie that's Star Wars without him involved. He thought that no matter what, they would want him there because he's George Lucas. In his mind, his ego was just bigger than even a $4 billion contract. He just said, it's Star Wars. They're going to want me there because I'm George Lucas. Why would they not want me there? And what it turned out was they didn't want him there. And he thought that if she would be there, that would be his security policy because she was like one of his gang. You know what I mean? Between the Spielberg and Frank Marshall ties and all the history, he thought to himself, Kathy's going to be there. And I can count on her that like I can set the creative tone. She'll be there. She's going to be the liaison between like Disney and myself. And I'm still going to be like giving the creative tone. And the fact that he thought that is really, really dumb. As much as like I appreciate George Lucas and I respect his work on Star Wars, especially the original trilogy, Man, the guy in later years, his ego and hubris got the best of him.
Hey, he's a sucker.
He was a complete sucker, and he didn't realize that she wasn't what he thought. He thought, oh, she's gonna be like in my corner. She like like she respects me. She doesn't respect anybody. So, and as I said, we have a bench of people. Bench of people. What bench of people you have? All of your people are losers. We have a bench of people internally to handle the business, the creative side. No, you don't. Bench of people would suggest that this company was doing well. Nothing you did well. Even we didn't even get to stuff like Galaxy's Edge. So much merchandising was down the drain for these characters nobody cared about. You had the hotel that cost billions of dollars. Like this is like if we did an actual like try to tally up all the money that was lost here, it's insanity. The job has also grown since I stepped in. No, it hasn't. It's gotten smaller. It used to be that you release movies to the theater and it was a big deal. Now you make shitty TV shows and nobody wants to watch. There was no streaming, so there weren't a lot of things that we're involved in right now going on. So it has grown. Yeah, but there were movies, and the movies were taken away from you because you didn't know what you were doing. You were a loser and you lost money. Sorry if I hope that people aren't like frustrated with me reading this article.
You're fine.
I'm fine. Guys, in the chat, you're welcome to say if you read the chat if like people are like, just they're like hearing me have a meltdown in real
Yeah.
time.
Now, Emperor Goodwin says, KK is stunning and brave, Price. You will smoke turds in hell for your blasphemy.
How far down the road do you expect before a change gets made? And then you go off and produce these two big Star Wars things. Shut up, you shill Fleming. You shill Fleming. Kennedy will probably make an announcement months or a year out, and I have every intention of sticking around to help that person be successful. No, if the other person is ever going to be successful, the last thing he needs is for you to stick around. That would be that person's worst nightmare.
100.
Whoever that person is, you sticking around is the opposite of him being successful. That's like a thorn in your side. She's basically trying to pull a Bob Iger here. I'm already producing the Mandalorian movie, and Sean Levy is after that. Sean Levy, I don't even see that. That's still up in the air. It's just a bunch of talk. Nobody started filming. I don't even think he has a script. It's just a bunch of nonsense. And the Mandalorian movie, that's Favreau's project. I recall these same. What happened to the Rey movie? Didn't she hired Charmin, who was the biggest feminist ever? They were going to do like a feminist Rey movie. What happened to her feminist? Not one word about the Charmin lady.
Yeah, don't squeeze the Charmin.
Don't squeeze the Charmin. She couldn't even mention the Charmin lady. Deadline, I recall that these same retirement predictions were rendered a while ago, and you re-upped, and here you are. What do you make? Who even talks like this, Shill Fleming? What did you make of this fixation on your job status? I truly don't know. In any discussions previously about me retiring or quitting or any of those things, that's complete rumor mill because all through these reports, I've just continued doing my job and continuing my contract. Nothing unusual. It's all just been manufacturing. Nothing unusual. What's your job? What's your job? To lose billions of dollars? It's the only time in history that a person got a job, lost billions of dollars all the time, more and more billions, and just continues to sit there and talk with this like shitty attitude. It's like, I don't know. It just, I think that at this point it's become something that just frustrates me on a personal level. I think that when a person loses billions and billions of dollars, that's like the minimum requirement. You can say that the person did a bad job, you can have them fired, and then and never see them, doing this again.
You would think that
Deadline.
they could.
Sorry, go on.
You would think that somehow they might recognize how much money they've lost because of her. I think who knows? We've heard so many weird things about like, oh, she has this like ironclad contract where she can't be fired and all sorts of weird stuff like that. And then there's also just the reality that I don't think Bob Iger wants to be seen firing a female studio head. I think that he is convinced that that would be a step too far, and his head would be next for having the audacity to fire a female studio head under his watch. But
You know what? This is the dumbest thinking. I think that if you think that way, you're an idiot. That's what I think. I think that this thinking for
well, I
years.
mean, This is Bob Iger we're talking about.
If this has been his thought process for the past, I don't know, 10 years or whatever it is, he's an idiot. Because, like, you know, you can say I gave her a chance. She did the thing. Let's say if Bob Iger gave her the first movie and she made $2 billion with it, said, oh, fine, now she could do the second one. She made, like, The Last Jedi. It was a problem. You know, after The Last Jedi, that would have already been a red flag. That would have been a situation where, like, course correction was immediately needed. The fact that The Last Jedi came out and he wasn't able to even comment that they needed to keep Luke Skywalker alive, and that, you know, nobody did anything. But let's just say he made all of those mistakes. At that point, let's say even he made he did all the worst mistakes in the world, and The Rise of Skywalker came out, and it was shitty. That was, sorry, Sean, that was the part where he should have said, okay, you're done. You know what I mean? Like, that should have been the part where he says, okay, you got your trilogy of movies, you messed up, and we want you gone. And just, you know, do it nicely. I don't know how he could do it. Just get rid of her. That was his time to do it. And then maybe he brings people that actually care about Star Wars and they try to do some course correction. It wouldn't have been perfect. You still would have lost fans and people still would have been annoyed. But I think that there was still something that, you know, fans that did like Star Wars liked it so much that if you just gave them something to work with and that she was out on her ass, maybe somebody, you know, would have been okay with that. The fact that until this day, that was like in 2017, 2000, or let's say 2019, the fact that from 2019 until today, she's still there and doesn't feel like going anywhere, that's just a disgrace. Deadline. The connotation is you're being pushed aside in need of being replaced, though that's not what I've heard. It's absolutely not the case. It could not be further from the truth. No. Who says this shit? She's probably not even talking. Somebody wrote this. And everything that we do inside of Lucasfilm is in lockstep. She said lockstep a few times. That's probably her stupid PR people, you know, her slippery PR people. We got to use the term lockstep. Like, we got to give them the impression. This was very carefully crafted. Lockstep. That's like, they've used it a number of times now to give this impression. She and Bob Iger and Alan Bergman or whatever, they're all together. They're all deciding in lockstep. And in communication with Disney, we all know what's going on. The communication has been completely collaborative, as you would expect. Nobody's expecting it to be collaborative. It doesn't seem collaborative at all. And Matthew Baloney releasing that stupid article of his doesn't seem collaborative. This is a big piece of business for them, and they want to empower me to help me make the decision and that choice. I'm doing that. No, they want to make money, and you're losing billions. I'm placing some blame on Marvel's Kevin Feige because he had that magnificent streak of superhero hits. I mean, again, what are you asking? Or are you telling? This is like, you're not her defense lawyer. You know what I mean? Mr. Shill Fleming. You're supposed to be asking her questions. This isn't a question. I'm placing blame on Marvel's Kevin Feige because how daunting it is to run a company based on a beloved iconic IP. What has been the most challenging thing? It's not challenging, you idiot, about running Lucasfilm when fans of the original trilogy measure everything against it and don't see the business need of broadening the franchise when Disney paid so much for it. This is like the dumbest shit. She's writing her people are writing the questions and answers.
Oh, absolutely. No,
Even
there's no
Shill
question
Fleming.
about that.
Shill Fleming is like an NPC here. He's like when you play the video game and you go into, like, you know, a shop and there's the guy that sells you the weapons or whatever it is. That's like Shill Fleming. He has no opinion here. He's just saying what they told him to say. The thing is that, first of all, the original trilogy came out in the 70s, you know, early 80s or whatever it is. If you can't make something today, they're like, how do you measure up? With all the technology, all the money, you cannot create a movie that's Star Wars that's not shit today with, like, all your billions of dollars, then you need to leave immediately. It's not a matter of measuring anything against it. Yes, that's a classic thing. You could have made something. You know what? She didn't have to be the best at all. There's mediocre people in entertainment that probably would have stepped in, taken over Star Wars, and maybe not reinvented the wheel, and maybe not done something great, and maybe they would have done something that was just kind of okay. But even if somebody did that, at least it wasn't like ruining the franchise to the point of no return. She didn't just do something mediocre or just okay. She maliciously ruined it and gave a middle finger to everybody, and she did it purposefully.
Without a doubt.
Don't see the business for branding the franchise when Disney paid so much for it. It's what Amazon MGM will now go through as it expands the dream. Shut up. Stop trying to tie Amazon MGM and James Bond. This has nothing to do. It's apples and oranges. James Bond is one thing. This is Star Wars. Stop trying to make it seem, yes, like we're all in the same boat. You're not in the same boat. You're in two different boats. And not to mention that James Bond is also a different type of franchise than Star Wars. Now, I'm not saying that I don't like James Bond, and I do think that Amazon are probably going to do a bad job, but that's a whole different story. The fact that they got James Bond has nothing to do with her. They keep trying to make it seem the reason why they're doing this,
Yeah.
and this is the second time in the article, they want to make it seem like, listen, in these kind of like big businesses, sometimes billions of dollars are spent on IPs. You never know how it's going to turn out. It's always difficult when you get an IP and you want to make it modern. You never know how it's going to turn out. Amazon paid also billions. You don't know what's going to happen with it. They're trying to make it seem like even though she lost billions, it's difficult with an IP. It's absurd. It's absurd that they're even going there. Kennedy, it is something I think about all the time. No, you don't. It's fascinating to think about how you sustain a brand, especially Star Wars, which is just about to celebrate. You don't sustain it, you ruined it. And so to analyze and understand what was inspiring George when he created Star Wars, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. When he was still looking at Saturday matinees and Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, those are things of the past. And politically, what he was reflecting, he wasn't reflecting politics. You dumb. I'm gonna stop myself. I'm really trying. I feel like Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction. He's like, I'm trying real hard, Ringo. In any case, because Star Wars always had kind of a world building, yes, it had world building, not under you, though. You don't know what world building is. It reflects a certain amount of our society. You dumb. Oh, I'm in pain. I'm in pain, Professor.
Price is suffering.
I'm suffering. I'm suffering because I want to tell her what I think. The world, needless to say, is changing by the second, and consequently, the audience has changed dramatically. How can they consume things? We're seeing this reflected in the health of the movie business and what it really means for streaming and what all these other platforms may be on the horizon. You're trying to look forward, and at the same time, you're trying to create stories that feel familiar. So you're moving into the future, but you're maintaining a sense of familiarity. I think that's the hardest balance. This is just like filler fluff answer. I don't even know what she's babbling
Oh,
about.
yeah, it's babble. Mouth flapping.
Complete babble. This is just a bunch of nonsense. But the fact that what did they do here? This is that kind of narrative that like George Lucas always wanted to make things political. He wants to talk about society and like social justice. It's trying to sort of mirror that, saying that like she did it because she wanted to stay true to his vision. That wasn't his vision. First of all, he wanted to tell a story. George Lucas may have had ideas that were political or whatever. That's not what led him when he made these movies. He understood that he needs to create escapism here. If there's some underlying things that has to do with politics that he prefers, it wasn't done in a way that you can't enjoy the movies for whatever they are. And also, even sticking it to him, like, oh, even what did he do? He watched like Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon, also kind of minimizing, oh, you think he's such a genius? You would sit around and watch that. Like, even along the way, kind of to try to diminish him. Then when you have a brand that's this expansive, you're also, and this is something we work very hard at, you try to find different entry points for different generations, because that's what Star Wars has always been. No, again, they're doing this kind of new generation. That's why she wanted all the woke stuff or whatever. You basically worked along with Disney in general to brainwash a new generation into being woke. It's not that they were woke and you were trying to appeal to them. You were trying to brainwash them. So this idea is just a lie. It's a very generational brand. We want to sustain this. We want to work hard to sustain that. This could have been, if it was done correctly, something that multiple generations enjoy. Look at Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai worked with an IP that was not as as strong as Star Wars was. They created something. They have different generations that still watch the show. They have if you wanted a little more diversity or whatever it is, they put it in there, but they put it in a way that's not obnoxious, and they did it in a way that feels organic to what could happen. It wasn't done. They cast well liked actors and wrote good characters. She did none of these things. She's not good at this, and the fact that she continues to try to sell this bullshit, that really infuriates me. So George gave us the gift of storytelling, being across lots of different genres, and that gives us a lot of opportunity to try things. What we've really enjoyed about the streaming space is we've been able to experiment. What experiment in how to lose billions of dollars? You like basically only the Mandalorian, which is basically John Favreau's baby, like the first season or two, was worth anything there, and all the rest is your failures. It's harder to do that in the movie space, and now I think that's why it feels so good to be able to move into a Mandalorian movie as we're coming off of 3 seasons of very successful show. 2 seasons were mildly successful, were some I'd say successful. Third season wasn't, but she's lying again. We've actually built an audience for that. No, they've jumped ship, and we gave the young audience an opportunity to enter Star Wars at a different place and not feel like you have to have seen everything. I don't know. With all your stupid member berries, you actually didn't do what you just said. It can become their Star Wars. No, and that I think is the fun of storytelling challenge. Just more lies. Deadline, you've got a long resume of big movies. Compared to that, how much tougher is the challenge? So much public scrutiny and second guessing by the rabid fan base. The rabid fan base are your customers. If you have you don't buy a franchise for $4 billion if it's not worth something, and what it's worth is that you have a client base of customers that want to spend money on your franchise. That's why it's valued at $4 billion. So this quote unquote rabid fan base are the people that you want them to buy. Now, if there was a situation that she was making a ton of money, but there were just some fans that were dickheads, sorry, Sean, she could just say, well, we're making a ton of money, but there's some kind of people that are annoying me. But that's not the case. She's not making any money. So she's a failure. So this fan base that they're saying is rabid and stupid, they need those fans. It's not uncommon to develop projects with big names who fall out when visions don't align, but they get reported as a big implosion. I mean, you have 70 million projects that fell apart. If there was one movie that was a problem, you'd say, well, this one time the people clashed. The reality is she's not even able to put together a production. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many of these different productions that either well, either they've hired somebody and then they had to can them and switch, or they've started a production, or they announce a production and then nothing goes forward. It's kind of shocking, honestly. And to this point, it's like anytime Star Wars they announce anything, it's like, oh, you're gonna have a production. Oh, Simon Kinberg is writing the whatever. No, I don't believe that. Uh,
Also, even Simon
Anybody who
Kinberg.
believes it is a sucker, because they've announced more stuff than they've even put on screen. So it's ridiculous.
I also feel like Simon Kinberg is a has-been kind of, and I don't even know if all the stuff that he does well. I mean, he's probably better than her, but as long as she's there, I don't think it's going to help. Let me try to see if I can go this. It's like I want to go quickly, but every sentence is like an annoying, crappy thing that she's saying. What you just said though is so interesting to me, Mike. It's funny because there are people probably wrote both the questions and the answers.
Yeah.
Because that
Oh
is
yeah.
it doesn't matter. It's like I think that there was an episode of The Simpsons, maybe that there was something like this that I can't remember it. I could be wrong. And somebody asked like a question, and Mr. Burns is like, "Oh, it's a tough question, but a fair one." And I think that he says that because he knew the question in advance. That's what this feels like. She's like,
Yes.
"Mr.
Yeah. No.
Burns."
Yeah. That's an early. I believe that might be first season when he's supposed to be running for governor.
Right,
And,
right.
yeah, they have a your I think I might even remember it.
Right, there's
Your
something like that. I don't know why.
your
It's funny that I remembered and you
your
actually know what I'm
campaign
talking
is
about.
like a runaway freight train. Why are you so popular?
Right. Right, exactly. So that's what this is. Man, Professor, now after all this time, I've discovered that you and I are really on the same wavelength. The fact that you knew exactly what episode I was talking about on The Simpsons and what this involved, and you were able to give me the additional details. You see, I remembered something. I just didn't remember. I remembered there was something they asked him a question that's like all bogus, and he's like, "Well, that's a tough question, but a fair one." And that's exactly what that entire interview is, that Mr. Burns situation. What you just said is so interesting to me, Mike,
Oh,
because that
no.
is blah blah blah. It doesn't matter if you're working on Star Wars, anything else. What's troubling and frustrating is that our development gets scrutinized, and I don't know any other production where their development gets scrutinized like that. Okay, you attacked fans. You gave a middle finger to all your fans when they didn't watch it. You actively worked on campaigns against your own customers, you presented them as Istanphobes, you started a war with people, and you're like, I can't believe I'm so scrutinized all the time. Not to mention that all your projects are failures and they fall apart, most of them, before ever getting to like the production phase. So yes, you'd be scrutinized. If the access media is telling us that you're so stunning and brave every second and all your projects fall apart, and you're like kind of, a really, in my opinion, a really terrible person, based on your actions and how you attack your customers. I mean, you should be scrutinized. What, you're above reproach? Why? Because you're a woman? You think because you're a woman nobody can say that you're doing a crappy job? You were given like a dream job in entertainment, and you did everything wrong. And not only that, it's like it's worse than everything wrong, because she did everything wrong and she gave a middle finger to the people that actually spend money on this crap. It's very hard for anything to happen within Star Wars without some aspect of it becoming public before you even want to become public. No, that's not the case. If you ran a tight ship and you actually had projects that were planned and people knew what they were doing and there was respect and people that were serious about it, most of the time I think you could keep a lid on things. I mean, Kevin Feige sometimes hasn't been able to keep a lid on stuff, but over the years, especially in his better years, he was able to. It's not true that everything just becomes public. So I guess managing the message in some way is also quite a challenge because, of course, not every single thing we put in development we're going to make. Uh, yeah, what manage message? Your bullshit PR? What message are you managing? It's not that every single thing in development wasn't going to, going to make it. It's that you announce 70 projects that are all canceled, and usually it has something to do with people fighting, even people suing you, creative differences. You're removing people in the middle of a movie. You're reshooting projects. You're hiring incompetent people. People don't want to watch your stuff. This is not what you're saying. That's not unusual. It is unusual, especially for something that was once this popular. We want to make those things that we feel are the best. You don't know what the best is. You're incompetent. We want to make those things that, as time passes, feel relevant to what the audience is responding to. Your stuff is not timeless. Your stuff, as time passes, becomes irrelevant. It becomes irrelevant even the second you release it. So there's constant discussion around that. So yeah, that's a tricky one because a lot of scrutiny around Star Wars and the negativity has been around development. Of course, we're going to develop lots of different things with an understanding that not everything gets made. Man, the amount of mental gymnastics here. Maybe you want to comment on this, Professor. Isn't this just bogus bullshit?
It of course, yeah. It's just one thing after another. Like you say, it just feels like all of this was just written by their PR team and then answered by their PR team. Like it's
This is not a
oh
real interview. This
yeah.
is less than this is
Oh.
not an interview. I'm sorry, Shill Fleming Jr. This is not an interview. Deadline. I broke a piece last fall about Simon Kinberg making a deal to write and produce a Star Wars trilogy. How's that going? A tough question, but a fair one. We're absolutely rolling fast and furiously. Fast and furiously? What are you talking about? Like, nothing is happening fast and furiously with you. This has gone exceptionally well. And he's literally going to script as we speak. What do you mean he's going to script? He hasn't even written a script. Whatever you, what do you do? It only matters if there's a script. Maybe that this is the ABCs of running a studio. Maybe when you don't have a script and you don't have a project and you don't have a cast and nobody's attached and you don't know what you're doing, maybe you shut the fuck up and wait until there's something concrete and then you announce it. Only a person that doesn't know what they're doing continues to announce these projects, usually to, like, appease investors and make it seem like you're doing something when in fact all you're doing is failing. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Uh, we're doing absolutely well, blah, 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 exceptionally well. We'll see something probably around June. What are we going to see in June? That he writes a script until June? Simon, if you remember, he did some work with us years ago with the animated show, which was really wonderful collaborative experience. Which one was that? Was this Clone Wars? What he was even working on? I don't know. So what? So that means
Yeah,
he can do
maybe.
like a trilogy of Star Wars? Simon Kinberg? I mean, yes, I think he's less of an idiot than you, but yeah, as somebody mentioned here in the chat, he did make Dark Phoenix. Oh,
Yeah.
this is the most annoying article probably I've ever read. Uh, And then he got very busy with X-Men and recently became available again. He segued into this space beautifully. Really excited about where that's headed. He's already done. I don't want to say it has been. Maybe that's not nice of me. I'm not saying that everything he's done is bad, but like, this doesn't seem like the savior of like Star Wars. Certainly not when Kennedy is around either. Deadline, there are spin-offs and there is the core Star Wars story broken into trilogies. Is this a continuation of that? This is the next iteration, the new saga that moves us into the future. Ugh. And the one by Deadpool and Wolverine director Sean Levy. This is Shil Fleming. Nobody would interview like this. This, this is just annoys me. That is also in the future. It's all the first 9. Sean's a standalone Star Wars story, so that'll take place post 9, maybe 5 or 6 years out. And Mandalorian really stands on its own because there we're dealing with a whole other era in the New Republic. What other era? You're dealing between like the supposedly original trilogy and the sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Which again, that whole problem with The Mandalorian is that at the end it always leads into the sequel trilogy unless you would have retconned it, which you didn't do. We have
Yep.
other development going on in that space as well. So that's the space we're pretty much focused on right now at the moment, because obviously The Mandalorian, we have pretty good sense of where that's going. I don't think you have a sense of anything. And with this, it's all pretty much new characters. We may bring some of the character backs from the sequel saga. Nobody even likes those characters. There's nothing you have in the sequel saga that anybody, and it's not a saga. It was a sequel trilogy to the so-called Skywalker saga, and your sequel trilogy sucked. You can't even call it, even with your PR people, you don't even know how to call it.
Yeah, honestly, it's not even a trilogy. They're 3 vaguely connected movies that weren't written together as a 3-part story.
Right.
So, yeah.
A scattered trilogy of crappy movies, but pretty much new characters. And also, what characters do you have there that anybody wants to see? Rey, nobody wants to see her. Rose Tico,
No, thank
I
you.
don't. No, thank you. I'll say that if they hadn't humiliated him and made him a joke, I thought that Finn could have been an interesting character. But at this point, there's no way to redeem that. I'll always remember him
No.
just running around.
Yay!
Yeah, like that's all I ever.
Yay!
And Poe Dameron, the only thing I'll remember, even though Oscar Isaac is a good actor, the only thing I'll remember from him is that he wanted to kiss a woman and she told him that they can be friends or something like that. That's
Oh,
what I remember.
I
That
just remember him being, like, put down by a blue-haired goon, purple-haired weirdo.
right, exactly.
Fly boy.
Oh, well, that too, yeah, with Aldo, yeah, and he was slapped by Leia. Like he gets slapped
Yeah.
around, he gets like put in his place, and at the end, the woman that he's like, "Hey, what's up, baby?" She's like, "I don't want to be with you," and then the movie ends. It's like only in Kathleen Kennedy's version of like Star Wars, the dashing like pilot, and they gave him the worst line ever.
Yeah.
I feel like until today, Oscar Isaac must know that he has the worst line in that trilogy.
The worst line in Star Wars ever
Maybe one of the worst lines ever in the history of
in
cinema.
film. Yeah.
Imagine the day if I was on set that he has to go and he says, somehow Palpatine has returned. And the thing is that when he says it, you can tell in his eyes that he knows that's going to be a meme that will haunt him forever when he says that sentence. Look at his eyes when he says it. Deadline. How many development type projects do you have percolating that feel confident will turn you into something down the line? Kennedy. To play it safe, I'd say 3 or 4 at the moment. And a large part of it, Mike, is who is the talent we're attaching. And that's a challenge in and of itself these days because people get really busy. So you find yourself having to wait a lot with the top talent streaming and movies now. They're juggling schedules. And when you do Star Wars, you pretty much have to step into it and not have any other competing work going on. It's a good 2 or 3 years minimum commitment. That's tough to get top talent to be able to carve out that kind of time. So that's part of the challenge as well. There is so much wrong with this one thing. It's like, first of all, Star Wars, the way it used to be prior to your tenure, you used to say Star Wars would basically clear their schedule. You know what I mean? It would be like, I
Oh,
get
yeah.
to be in a Star Wars movie. I'm like, cancel all my contracts. Like, I'm going to do Star Wars. You know what I mean? It was the type of thing that like everybody wanted to be a part of. Now,
Not gonna pass it up, no.
yeah, now because of your leadership, people are like, well, I have other movies I'm doing for streaming. Maybe at some point, half the time I think they just know this is crap and they just don't want to be involved in it. It's like you look at these movies and you look at these shows and you look at all these failures. And why would you want? It's not that top talent is busy. They're too busy to do your crap. That's the problem. Maybe in some cases, if they have time in their schedule and you're paying a lot of money, a shit ton of money, sorry, Sean, sometimes maybe you'll do it. And yeah, I mean, why is it that other franchises don't keep whining about stars juggling things? If you're a good franchise and it's something that the stars want to be a part of, then you'll get them. And the other thing is, oh, it's a good 2 to 3 years minimum commitment. Yeah, if you didn't refilm the movie 7 times, maybe it wouldn't be a 2 year, 3 year commitment. Maybe if you knew what film you were doing and you actually storyboarded it and had any kind of plan and you weren't an idiot, then maybe they would want to do it.
Indeed. I mean,
Deadline.
yeah.
You've still got that prequel with James Mangold, who's Oscar nominated for the Bob Dylan movie, A Complete Unknown. They wrote A Complete Unknown. It's Complete Unknown, Shill.
Compete.
Shill Fleming, it's a complete unknown, you dumb shill. Yep, he's
Well,
working
you
on
don't know how to say Woody Guthrie, so what are you?
I must be AI.
Yeah.
But the thing is that part of this thing that they put it in here because they want to show like, oh, see, there's stuff going on. James Mangold, he's relevant now. He's like winning awards as we speak, and then he's working on the script now. Simon's working on scripts right now. Working on scripts is nothing. Is there a script or is there not a script? She said she had scripts for Obi-Wan. Remember that? She didn't mention that here in this Shill article, Shill Fleming. What happened to the Obi-Wan scripts that were done, and then she needed another year to write them again and to write them again and to film them again, and then it was shit. Sorry, Sean. Sean, we had working with him already for about a year and a half. These guys are available now. Jim, he got delayed a bit because of the Bob Dylan movie and the award season. You have to accommodate top talent to a certain extent. Quality is so important that we're trying. You don't get to say that. You can only say that if you had a bunch of quality. You had zero quality. You can't say that the reason why it's all doing this is because you need the quality. You're not in a position to say that. And quality is so important. I like to wait for people that I think are passionate and a really good step in this. No, you've proven. You see, the thing is that you can only say stuff like that if you have anything at all to show for it. And she has nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Yeah, no, they haven't been waiting for good people. No, they wait for somebody to come along that has the right skin color and the right sexual preferences and whatever, so that they think they can go make something out of it that's going to be shocking and just set the world on fire because, oh, look, we had a lesbian who made Star Wars. Great. Hooray.
Yeah. She didn't even mention the Acolyte, neither did Shill Fleming. Shill Fleming, if you're a reporter and you actually wrote this, if this is a real interview, what happened to the Acolyte? What happened to all these failures? How is it that you forgot about all her failures? Why didn't you mention the hotel? Why didn't you mention Galaxy's Edge? Why don't you mention like the billions lost on merchandising? So many things that are real, that if you're a real journalist, you mention nothing. This person is not a journalist. Deadline. Any others I've forgotten? Well, I keep waiting for Taika Waititi. He is working with another writer now. He's so busy. I love him. I think if we ever get a script from Taika, it's going to be fantastic. No, have you seen Thor: Love and Thunder? It's not going to be fantastic.
No.
It's going to be some kind of ironic jokes and stupid crap. You have no idea what you're doing. You are the worst executive ever. You have to step down because you don't know what you're doing. You're a terrible, terrible studio head. Maybe the worst studio head in the history of Hollywood. Given the tools that you were given and the budgets, you were probably pound per pound the worst studio executive ever in the history of cinema since the day. You know how in the early days they had movies where like they had a camera, they pressed like record, and there was like a baby eating like a popsicle. That was like the early movies. Since the invention of the camera, since that day, she is the worst executive. You know what I'm saying? Like those people with the baby and the popsicle had more vision than this woman. Do you know what I'm talking about? The baby and the popsicle?
Bold statement, but very true.
Is it baby and a popsicle? I don't even know.
I'm sure there were plenty of very strange.
I think that like
videos,
baby eating a popsicle was an early movie.
Yeah, could be.
You're welcome to research this.
Yeah.
Well, I keep waiting for the blah blah blah. I love him. Blah, 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 blah. I saw a first act that I loved, but tying him down is tricky. First act. This is so amateur hour. Nobody's just. You either have a script or you don't have a script. Hey, do you have a script? Hey, I have a first act. First act is not going to get you anywhere.
No.
You have a script or you don't have a script. And if you don't have a script, you don't do anything with it. Who in their right mind as a studio head is like, I want to see your first act? It's like, send him a script and either you like it or you don't like it. Deadline. I still remember seeing his Thor Ragnarok, entering with low expectations, watching his exuberant vision and thinking, this is what you want when you go to a movie theater on a Saturday night. Now, the thing is that I saw Thor Ragnarok in the theater. And Thor Ragnarok, when I saw it, I didn't hate it. I didn't mind that, they tried to give a little more of a comedic edge to Chris Hemsworth,
Yeah.
to Thor. I didn't hate it, but I feel like all the wrong lessons were learned from it rather
Yeah.
than having it as sort of a one-off, offbeat kind of story that you can kind of enjoy for whatever it is, but then kind of move along and continue to take yourself a little more seriously. They're just like, let's do this even more stupid. Let's make Thor even dumber and more like, make him humiliate him and make him stupid or whatever it is. And Taika
Absolutely.
Waititi is an idiot. I never really rated him. Yeah, I think he's overrated. Some people are like, well, his own movies are great. Then go watch them. Go watch his shitty movies. Uh, Sorry.
See, yeah, I didn't mind Ragnarok. I know a lot of people hate Ragnarok. I did not mind it. I genuinely thought the first couple of Thor movies were pretty dour. His character was really dull, and it was an interesting change of pace to get to see him do something a little more comedic. And I thought he had great timing for it too. I thought he actually did a great job with it. I didn't mind the lighter tone of the film. It's a little silly, but I thought it was fun. But no, the next film, Love and Thunder, is one of the worst things I've ever seen on screen. It's embarrassing how
I
bad it
didn't.
is.
I agree with you. I didn't hate it. I didn't hate I guess what I'm saying, like, I agree with you, Professor. I didn't hate Ragnarok when I saw it, but I didn't think that now they need to only make it dumb. You know what I mean? And to double down and make it even dumber was not the right way to go.
Yeah.
You could get away with that once. That was a one time
Yeah,
you
the
could pull that trick.
one time, yeah.
One time. But yeah, when I saw it, I didn't hate it. I know some people did hate it. Uh, I thought to myself, like, it's fine if they wanted a little bit of a lighter tone. I didn't hate it when it came out, but I guess thinking about it now, knowing how it all turned out, now that movie actually has lost points with me. Now, if I watched it, I'd get annoyed.
Yeah,
Whether that's fair or not, I don't know. But sometimes when you see where like the creative direction is going, you can then trace it back to there and say, you know what? Because we let this slide, because we said, okay, this is just some lighthearted fun, they took the chance to just destroy it. Kennedy, it's so true. That's exactly the tone we're always looking for with filmmakers who can pull that off. That's not what Star Wars is. That's not Star Wars isn't dumb like fart jokes and stuff. You need like real people making a movie here. It just shows how clueless she is, and the worst part is she doesn't even care. All she cares about is that she's, 71, 72 years old, has hundreds of millions of dollars, has these PR people just pulling all their strings and writing this crap. She doesn't even know. I bet you, like, I wonder if she's ever watched, like, Star Wars movies. She's probably never read any books. Her knowledge of Star Wars is probably, like, so minimal. I wonder if she even, like, watches the shows, movies she produces. Like, she's just, like she's just some older woman that, like, likes to go to cocktail parties and, like, collect awards and have people tell her she's great.
yeah,
Uh, and if she did that, and then there was a real team of like professionals running Lucasfilm, you would say, okay, so she's a figurehead, but there's real people working here. But at the same time, she wants to pretend like that she's actually the boss and knows what she's doing and interfere and stuff. But she wants to go to cocktail parties and pretend like she's a creative visionary. This is just embarrassing. This is one of the biggest shams in entertainment ever since that baby ate that popsicle. Uh, it's so true and exactly what the tone we're looking for. You're really trying to find that diamond in the rough, and he's one of them. So
yeah,
even when you hand the reins to a Lucasfilm protege, it sure sounds like you're going to be in that world for 8 or 10 years. Fair? Fair? That sounds like that Simpson thing. I'm telling you, this is that Simpsons episode. That's what this whole article is. It's like he's saying, "Oh, like you have to be there for another 8 and 10 years, right?"
yeah,
and she's like Mr. Burns here, like, "Oh, it's a tough question, but a fair one." So she's like, "I don't know if I'm going to say that, but yeah, it's possible." Like in the interview, he's trying to convince her to stay. Do you get do you understand what's happening here,
absolutely,
Professor?
yeah, yeah,
Shill Fleming is trying to convince. Kathleen Kennedy to stay
Get her
for
to
another 8
stay.
to 10 years. She's already like 71. They said 72, but she's saying no, she's 71. He's trying to already convince her to stay there until either 80, like 79, 80 or 81. He's trying to make her say that she's going to be there. She, on the other hand, she's like, "Wait, slow down there. We'll see how it goes, but I'll think about it. It's possible." Deadline. Might you also go back to working with your husband, Frank Marshall, who's doing a documentary on Barbara Streisand, another on Fleetwood Mac? He is truly something. I cannot keep pace with most of the time with what he's doing. And then he just opened a play on Broadway, Redwood, and he's finishing Jurassic Park, World Rebirth. It makes me feel like I'm standing still. Well, you are standing still. I mean, first of all, Frank Marshall seems to be more talented than you because he actually does get something done.
Oh,
And
I guarantee you, he's trying to pull strings right now to make sure she doesn't leave her job. Because while right now she's actually like occupied and not up in his business, so he's actually able to be productive.
he
And
probably loves that
yeah,
she's in his job.
he's if she leaves Lucasfilm, she's going to be all in his business and uh, you know messing with his screwing up his shit. Sorry,
Uh,
Strawn.
Absolutely. D- Do you look forward to a point where the two of you can kind of focus on collaborating on these projects that you've always cooked up together? Another one of those things, cooked up together. I feel like she is the luckiest person out of all these people, of like Spielberg, Lucas, like Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy. She is the luckiest person out of all these people. Obviously, the talent is not with her. They're the ones that have like, obviously Spielberg, tons of vision. Lucas, in his own style, like his vision as well. Frank Marshall is a competent producer. Kathleen Kennedy is really, without these guys, you could tell what she's worth. Whether it was cooked at Amblin or elsewhere. Oh, sure. If something came along that the two of us, we loved coming back together to being able to work with Mangold on the indie movie, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, a movie that lost like one of the biggest flops of all time in cinema because it cost like probably close to $500 million to make. And, it didn't make a portion of that back. That was a treat for you, not a treat for viewers, not a treat for the company you work for. And to be working with Steven Spielberg, and as they say, getting the band back together, that was really fun. We had a blast. Spielberg had nothing to do with this. I feel like Spielberg wanted nothing to do with this movie. He was like an executive producer in name only, and the only time you saw him do anything was that he arrived with Lucas at that event that they just they were somehow on stage with her or something, but they didn't do it. He
Yeah.
didn't want anything to do with this. I feel like
Nope.
tomorrow, like if I was Spielberg, I'd send my PR people and say like, "Hey, I had nothing to do with that movie." But deadline, any regrets? No, I mean far from regrets. I love the challenge of stepping into this space, and literally space, and being with Star Wars over these years, taking on the challenge of expanding on Star Wars. You haven't expanded, you've contracted. What's the opposite of expanding? Is that contracted?
Yeah.
That's what you contracted Star Wars. You didn't expand it. I loved working with Disney, and the company has been fantastic in its support of the IP. No, it hasn't. They've expanded things in ways I don't think George could have. Oh, shut up. Oh, you dumb. Oh, I can't stop myself from calling her what I think she is. What am I going to do, Professor? This is the biggest test ever.
Oh,
And it's been such a learning experience. More than George could have imagined. I mean, yeah, you can fault George for having a big ego on those prequels, but even there, he at least tried to come up with new stuff, with ideas. There was something there. There were issues with them, but you didn't feel a malicious intent. You felt misguided decisions were made, but not malicious intent. I can't say that about her tenure. Uh,
nope.
what'd you say?
No, I was agreeing with you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Uh, So I've never been an executive before. I'm a filmmaker through and through. No, you're not, and you're not much of an executive, and you're not much of a filmmaker. I even approach the executive role as a filmmaker. You know how to do none of these things. I love working with filmmakers. That's probably true. That's the only thing that is true in this entire article. You love working with filmmakers because they're talented, and you get to sort of like ride their coattails. That is my lifeblood. It's what I enjoy more than anything, and being able to do so inside of Star Wars has really been fun because we have those people to step into Star Wars who are diehard fans, and we have people who step into Star Wars who never really knew about the IP as well. Too many of the ones that you hired didn't know the IP. Maybe if Leslie Headland knew something about Star Wars, you wouldn't have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on weird lesbian space witches. And you look at somebody like Tony Gilroy, he has done transformative, exceptional work. I've been working with Tony for more than a decade. I don't think Tony would have ever imagined he would have done that. See, the reason she's bringing this up is Tony Gilroy wasn't like a huge Star Wars guy, but he saved Rogue One from like falling apart, which also nobody talks about how much that cost and how they had to pay more money and how he barely saved the movie. And then he did Andor. So like she's holding on to that this is the one guy in her orbit that's not a complete idiot.
Yeah.
But this is like the one guy in her orbit that is not a complete jerk off. I admit it. He's not completely untalented, even though Andor is a snooze. The creative experience on Andor has been fantastic, and second season is coming out next month.
Ugh.
That's where the satisfaction comes for
Yeah.
me. And I just hope that continues. That's what satisfies you after 70 million failures that you have one
Yeah,
guy that's not an idiot.
Did you see the
Deadline.
trailer for that, by the way?
They put some shitty song in there that like it's like
Oh, it's awful. I don't like the visuals. Like if you turn the sound off, the visuals are a little much. It's really heavy on the action. I think they're trying to oversell it just a little bit, given the makeup of the first season. But I did like what I saw. Some of the different characters that they brought in. You can tell Krennic's going to be in there. It's going to tie up and tie in very closely to Rogue One. Looks interesting there, but at the same time, they put this terrible like rock music song over the top. I'm like, this does not fit a Star Wars series at all. Why did you think this was a good idea?
I'll tell you why I think this happened. I think that what happened was, and this is the problem we have today. I'll give them. I'm not cutting her any slack, but I'll say is the problem is today in general in entertainment. You have too many people doing reactionary decisions rather than thinking. Rather than correcting a mistake, they're doing some weird maneuvers. What am I trying to say? What's the problem with the original Andor? What did most people say? It was a quality show. It was very slow, and between it being slow and Andor seeing kind of snoozy, people just kind of steered away from it because there wasn't something that really caught their eye in these whatever trailers were, and whoever started watching it, people that like are more mature and maybe wanted to give the storytelling, this kind of slow burn storytelling, a chance, they did it. But I think that the overall idea is that show was really slow. So what did they do here? They want to give you a feeling that this is
Yeah,
happening fast. This is
full of
fast.
action.
It's action, it's fast, there's like stuff is going on all the time, and they want to immediately give you the trailer of like, come on, this is like, upbeat stuff. Like this is not a snooze, not a snooze like it was before. Now it's like
No.
all action, which it doesn't matter. It's going to be the same thing as the previous episodes. I don't think that it's suddenly going to be all like quick action. I think that their trailer is trying to give you that impression. That's why they put that music there, thinking they're going to course correct their issues from the last time, from the way they marketed in the show itself. So that's probably why they put that song. It's misguided though, because the song sounds like completely not right in the Star Wars universe. And then even they tried a few scenes where like Andor, they want to make him have a little more personalities, like he's dressed like in some weird suit. So they're like, look, he has character. It's not true that Diego Luna is like, kind of a boring, delivery and stuff. He has a lot of character, the guy. So that was that whole trailer. Will you arm twist Tony into doing one of these Star Wars movies after he was the uncredited backstop on Rogue One? This to me is another situation that you could tell that she wrote the article with her people, because they're trying to make it seem like if you didn't know that Tony Gilroy, because if you look at Rogue One, it's Gareth Edwards that directed it. And at the
Yeah.
time, as opposed to later when she fired those two, Lord and Miller,
Yeah, Lord Miller.
she didn't want the impression at that time people were still protecting a reputation. So rather than saying she fired Gareth Edwards mid-movie, she hired Tony Gilroy to clean it up. Obviously, she's very happy now to let people know. Basically, in this one statement, she just threw Gareth Edwards under the bus.
Yeah.
She has no issue with all of Shill Fleming's things about all the stuff and all the bullshit that he talked about. At the end, she just threw a guy under the bus who actually was a good sport, even though like she, she. I don't know what his movie looked like, but there's nothing shittier than her behavior, the way she did that. In any case, I don't know if I can. I don't think he ever believed he'd be a decade inside Star Wars. He's writing some things on his own. and I think he'd like to get back into the director's chair. So we'll see what he does. But he's such a talent, just fantastic. He also provided the creative spine for the Bourne Identity, which again, Shill Fleming. He's like, he's trying to get you pumped up about Andor. Oh, you like Rogue One? This was Gilroy. Oh, you like the Bourne Identity? Yeah, that was Gilroy, like Gilroy as well. Yeah, that's how we all met. And that's how they all met, because she did she have anything to do with the Bourne Identity? I don't even know. Deadline. 2 final questions. Will you step out as Lucasfilm boss this year? We really don't know at this stage. There's so much going on, Mike. I don't know. When it happens, we'll make the decision. Me. It's my decision. This is 100% my decision.
Yep. Okay.
This is like the worst article I've ever read. It has to be one of the worst ones. I love
But
a
it's
comment.
super honest.
I'm enjoying that people actually went to the comments. Crap, it was too good to be true. KK's only sin, as far as I'm concerned, is hand waving away the EU instead of the sequels. They just jumped into the Yaku's Vong war arc. This one's a shill. It was time for Kennedy to go and retire. Fans will remember her. Remember how she almost destroyed Star Wars and MCU franchise. Why? The MCU has nothing to do with it. So good riddance. Glad she's gone. Doesn't matter if she retires. She already killed all the brands under her watch. She's outstayed her welcome. It's funny that they can't even bring like barely any comments. Then one person. Most of the people in these comments are middle-aged men who sleep with stuffed Darth Vader dolls. Or, people that watched her torture Bran and then blame the fan base for not understanding her vision. Anyhow, this is just a bullshit thing.
Yes.
I want to thank everybody that was patient and, people probably were frustrated, but I see that some people hung out here. So
Getting some classic Price rant, out of the way, this
that was like
evening.
an
Yeah.
ongoing rant forever. And really, it's just the article was so long and every sentence in it was like designed to annoy me.
Well,
Marla Chernoff is
yeah.
asking, is she retiring or not?
No.
Basically, Marla, if I had to say what I think that Disney wanted her gone, and that's why they tipped off the other reporter, and that's why they were trying to move this story along. She didn't like this because she wanted to leave on her own terms,
Yeah.
and now this is her, like, fighting back, using her own people and her own narratives and pushing whatever stupid crap that she wants to push into the press.
Yeah, she wanted to be the one to announce it with some grand, uh event or some very special way of saying, "Oh, look at all the amazing things she's done, and now she's stepping away." And then, yeah, somebody came out. The Puck reporters came out, and Baldoni screwed her over, screwed the all the screwed up all the plans that she had, and so now she's got to find some way to get back at them. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. Well, now that we've gone over this frustrating article, maybe you
Yeah.
can give us, just before we kind of start wrapping up, if you can give us some gaming updates. I keep
You
seeing stuff, but there's so
Yeah,
much stuff going on.
there's not a whole lot. I mean, there's been some little things here and there. Yeah, as we mentioned on Tuesday, there was the Wonder Woman game that was canceled. The WB Games shut down a few different studios, and there's been some leaks that have been coming out from there. Essentially, there's been a couple of different developers that have come out and been talking about the Wonder Woman game having been canceled, and some of them have been very angry about it, say, "Oh, if this was going to be an amazing game, and anyone who says anything bad about it is going to anyone who says anything bad is going to be on my shit list," or whatever. Sorry, Sean. But there's also been another developer basically came out and said, "Hey, uh, this was going to be a woke mess. There's nothing here that you're missing out on. Unfortunately, this was not going to be a good game." And some people were very upset that it was Monolith Gaming that had been closed. given they had been a very storied, very celebrated studio for years. And the reality was that they had not just one. They had one game that was sort of never materialized, and ended up throwing away a lot of money on it. And then they were working on this Wonder Woman game. They've been working on it for uh, let's see, they had been working previously on the previously canceled game for 4 years, and then they've been working on this one for another 5 or 6. So they basically haven't produced anything. They haven't published anything in years. So it's not surprising that they would end up on the chopping block. But it also sounds like perhaps that WB is they're not canceling these studios. They're not shutting these studios down because they're woke or anything. A lot of people have been saying, "Oh, we're getting they're getting rid of these woke studios." But it sounds as though WB might be doubling down on DEI and woke in some ways. That they're specifically firing different people that like disagree with trans ideologies and stuff like that. So yeah, lots of lots of very interesting stuff going on in the market. Not sure where all of it is gonna land. Uh, honestly, I just have no interest in buying any big, you know, AAA games anytime soon. Gonna go back and play a lot of old stuff.
I'm so confused about this James Caserta comment. It started with, is that Steven Spielberg sabotaging George Lucas with the prequels? I don't think Steven Spielberg sabotaged his sequels.
Uh, I know that initially George had wanted Spielberg to come and help with the films, help make the films, direct at least one of the films, and then he told him no. But yeah, I don't know what else would be sabotage though.
If anything, what I heard is that after those first two movies, like The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, rumor has it, and I don't know what's true or not, that Spielberg was often present on the set of Revenge of the Sith, and that there were parts that like he was very influential in
I
the
see.
making of that movie. Also, maybe that there were changes. Certain things were filmed that he convinced George to change, and things like that. I don't know all the ins and outs, but basically, and this is just my impression. Maybe people that are wiser than me can give a different interpretation. I think that at the point that there was Revenge of the Sith, I think Lucas understood that those two movies that he made didn't quite land with a fan base as much as he wanted, and that people had real issues with them. And I think he understood that this third movie, Revenge of the Sith, has to be at least pretty decent to wrap up this trilogy. And
Yeah.
I think that at that point, as opposed to before, where they're all like, you know, around him and he's the big boss and he's telling them what they want and they're all like bowing down, he brought Spielberg in, who often was on set, and he would tell people, oh, like they'd be like, oh, what are you doing here? And he'd be like, oh, I just happen to have some time in my schedule. I mean, Steven Spielberg is a busy man. So the fact that he quote unquote has time in his
Just
schedule,
just has time. Yeah.
yeah, to keep showing up on set, I think that there was something else going on there. Keep in mind that Spielberg has a percentage of this franchise, first of all, and the other thing is, just his loyalty and friendship with Lucas after all these years. I think that there was sort of an understanding that anybody that would tell anything to George Lucas, Lucas would like not even listen to it. It wouldn't interest them because you're not on his level. But if Steven Spielberg came and said, "Hey George, why don't we try this and this idea?" That would be the only case where George would be like, "Oh, I like this. Let's," even in front of his other people. Do you get what I mean? This was the only way to work with his ego, that even like in front of other employees or whatever, it would be like, "Oh, like I like Steven's idea. Let's go with that." Because you don't look like an idiot if you're just saying that Steven Spielberg said something good.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've always suspected that the reason that Revenge of the Sith is just a bit, I know some people may not like it, but I would argue that it's the best out of the three, is because I think that he had something to contribute there to try to course correct at least some of what was going on there.
Could be. Could be.
So I don't know what they were
Yeah.
referring to with that comment. If James Caserta wants to explain, I'd be happy to hear it, but I don't know what he meant. But sorry, I cut you off, Professor. You were
No,
talking
no.
about the games.
No, no, that's really about all I had to say. Yeah, didn't haven't really got a chance to read too much of the news on the games today, but there's like I said, there's a few things like that Wonder Woman thing that was going on. There was some other stuff with some new Pokemon games announced, stuff like that, but nothing like just earth shattering. What's
Adam
this?
Gray
Oh,
says, "Remember that time Price annoyed a famous lady? I've annoyed a few famous ladies. That's the truth. There isn't even like one. I have multiple. Actually feel that anytime like a famous lady has spoken to me, it's somehow I'm misunderstood. I didn't mean to annoy anybody, but I can understand why it came off that way. And I haven't even told you like the half of it. I think that people are referring to it was once with like Jane Seymour with the security thing.
yeah.
Again, I understand from her perspective why it would seem that way, but in fact, I was trying to do something positive. It just didn't seem that way to her. Uh, there was the Diana Ross thing that I didn't know. I didn't have the answers to her questions. I probably could have handled that situation better. And Kristen Stewart, I really didn't think she looked like I mean, I thought she looked similar, but I didn't know that she was sorry, I don't know how to say this. It's not that there's anything wrong with it. I didn't know she was a lesbian and had like platinum hair. So that's how I learned that. And I'm trying to think who else could I have annoyed? What other famous women? There's probably more.
There's probably more.
There's one I can think of, but I probably shouldn't say it. And then all 70 people are going to ask me about it all the time. I don't have like, I don't have much to say. I'll say it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. I was once at an event and Julie Andrews was there. And like Julie Andrews is like a big deal. I think I wanted a picture with her or something, but I don't know what I said a few words to her or something. She I could tell in her eyes that she didn't have any patience for me. I don't even think I got a picture. Like I kind of looked in her eyes and I'm like, I told myself, you better keep walking. I don't know if I said, "Oh, Miss Andrews." I don't know what I looked at her, I'm like, forget about this, just forget about the picture. You don't need a picture with Julie Andrews." But, that did happen. So, here, I added to the lore if whoever wants to know. Uh, it would have been funny, though. I'm sorry that at the time I didn't have, like, the Price of Reason, puppet thing. It would have been nice if all these, like, people I made them take pictures with this puppet. Although I don't know if they would have. They probably would have thought that was weird. They barely even wanted to, take pictures with me.
Hmm.
Oh, so yeah, I'm trying to think if there were any others. Those are the four ladies. I did say that I annoyed like Joseph Gordon-Levitt once, and that is true. I did annoy him unintentionally. Trying to think. You know who I met who wasn't annoyed by me, who seemed actually pretty nice? Uh,
Who's that?
I can't even remember his name. Um, Maybe his name was David. Uh, David Cross.
Ah, okay.
He was in Mr. Show with Bob Odenkirk, and on Arrested Development as can't remember the character's name, but he's kind of funny. And I think that like it was one of those situations that I'm in an event and I just had like said a few words to him, but surprisingly he was actually like nice and a good sport, and I actually like had a bit of a conversation with him. And he seemed nice. So sometimes you could run into somebody which it actually seems like a down to earth person that's nice, but most of the times I you kind of run into the other thing. I think.
Hmm. Okay.
Tim Hayes says, "Price of Reason Live." So you're not a smart aleck or mildly autistic? I don't know. Oh, Tobias Funky. Thanks, Kendrick Lama.
Tobias Funke.
Biunke, yeah, that was who he was. He was nice in person. You know
Yes.
what? He was nice in person. I think that the other one, and this I've said before, that I was once somewhere where I met Kristen Wiig, and I talked to her for a bit, and she seemed nice. That's why usually when somebody's like, "Oh, Kristen Wiig this, Kristen Wiig that," usually I don't have something especially bad to say about her. Somehow, when you meet a person and they seem nice, I think that's worth something. Especially since, like, I'm not some important person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it says something when there's a person that, like, they don't need anything from me. I'm not like, there's no special reason to be nice to me. But if people are just like nice in general and like they talk to you and they're nice, then you know what? I give them like some point, half a point, something, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, Adam Gray said I blew myself. I remember. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was good on Arrested Development. He was good on Mr. Show with Bob Odenkirk too.
Yeah.
He has his own thing. He's funny. He has his own kind of style. It's a kind of quirky, offbeat humor. Uh, but yeah, even when I talk to him, you just look at him and he makes like one of his weird faces, and I was kind of just like chuckling. You know what I mean? Like he didn't have a bad vibe about him. So yeah, but I guess now we've gone through all this stuff and we went through all the subjects and
Yeah.
things like that.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe it's time for us
Yeah.
to. I also want to say today, because we had this article, I think that I didn't look enough at the chat.
Yeah.
So I apologize to you guys.
Yeah.
Usually, when it's more of a flowing conversation and less of me getting upset at some annoying article, I can look at your comments more.
Yeah.
And I apologize. I know that Professor did look, and from time to time, I did actually go and look what I could about your comments, and even reading them now. Uh, I was
Yeah.
also booted off the stream, so some of the names here I
Yeah.
don't even have.
A couple times. Before we go, I got one more thing.
What is it?
Give me your Oscar picks.
Okay. Best Picture. Oh, these are my options.
Yeah.
Best Picture. Uh, it's not going to be The Brutalist because of the AI. Uh,
Amelia Perez. Amelia
I
Perez.
don't think that they're going to give that anymore. I think that that's gone.
Not
It's not.
Best Picture. It's not getting Best Picture.
It's not going to. Dune Part Two is not going to get it either. Um, The Brutalist would have been maybe a candidate, but I don't think they're going to give it to her. Give it to it. Honora is something that the critics like. I haven't watched it. It seems dumb to me. Uh, okay, not Dune Part Two. Let's eliminate. Not Dune Part Two. Not Amelia Perez. I don't think Nickel Boys. I don't think The Substance. I don't think Wicked. So we're left with I'm Still Here, which I don't remember what even that movie is about. Conclave. It's something about not liking, church or whatever. It's probably a big contender. Complete Unknown is Bob Dylan. It's too fluffy. They're not going to choose it. The Brutalist, Honora. So we're down to Honora, The Brutalist, Conclave, and I'm Still Here. Uh, I don't think they'll give it to Conclave, even though I'm sure they nominated it because it doesn't like church or whatever. So we're going with I'm Still Here, The Brutalist, Honora. The Brutalist used some AI, so maybe that's out. So we're left with I'm Still Here and with Honora. I don't know what happens in I'm Still Here, and I vaguely know what happens in Honora. For some reason, probably it doesn't deserve it. I'm going to go with Honora.
All right. Honora it is. All right. Best actress.
Best actress. I don't think it's Cynthia Erivo. Uh, Honora is a chance. Emilio Perez is not going to get that.
No.
Fernando Torres. I'm Still Here. I'm at a disadvantage for not knowing exactly the virtue signal of I'm Still Here. It's
Yeah.
probably like a virtue signal movie. I'm just not sure what it's virtue signaling. Um, I think that Demi Moore was good in The Substance. I think that she's at least one of the top two spots, so I'll give it to her.
Okay.
Best actor.
Actor. Yep.
I think that Adrian Brody is a good actor and gives a good performance. The AI will keep him. Um, they're not going to give it to Sebastian Stan. That's just a nomination because they don't like the Orange Man. Uh, Ralph. So we're down to. I've never watched Coleman Domingo and Sing Sing. I just don't know. It's not Adrian and it's not Sebastian Stan. We're left with Timothy Chalamet, Coleman, and Ralph Fiennes. I personally don't think Timothy Chalamet deserves it. I think that he did a good job in some aspects, but I wouldn't have given him an Oscar. Ugh. I'm just I could be wrong on this. I'm going with Coleman Domingo Sing Sing.
All right.
Best
We're probably
supporting.
we're probably going to be wrong on a lot of these. So since I've seen exactly one of some of these films that have been nominated, so you know, just kind of guessing from what I know the movies are about and the actresses and actors and all of that stuff. So yeah,
I think that
supporting actress.
Zoe Saldana, Amelia Perez. Even though Amelia Perez is shit, they like Zoe Saldana. Maybe they'll give her the
Yep.
award.
All right. Supporting
Best support.
actor.
Best supporting actor. They're not going to give it to Jeremy Strong because The Apprentice was just nominated because Orange Man. Let me see. I'm going with Kieran Culkin and A Real Pain.
All right.
Although
Director. Yep.
I think that Guy Pearce was really good as well.
Yeah.
Guy Pearce is also a candidate, but I'll go with Kieran Culkin. I don't know why. Maybe I'm stupid. Director. I can't see the bottom.
Oh, sorry. Scroll up a bit for you. Oh, well, hold
It's
on.
still not.
Scroll up here. There you
Okay. What is this? Best actor? What are we
go.
going?
This is director.
Best director. I'm going with Coral Fargid or whatever that
Corley
is.
Fargeat
The
substance.
substance,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Documentary. You probably have no idea. So just guess one.
Whatever the wokest one is out of these, just
No idea which
let's
one.
go with Porcelain War. I don't
Okay,
even know what it
Porcelain
is. It's
War.
probably
Yeah.
that one.
International film
I'm Still Here.
from Brazil. Someone in the chat said that I'm Still Here is about an abusive man. So yeah,
Oh, maybe that one's is
maybe
like
that
would have gotten more
could
awards.
be. Yeah, animated film.
Animated film. I'm gonna go with The Wild Robot.
Yep. Original screenplay.
Uh, A Real Pain.
All right. Adapted screenplay.
Uh, uh, Conclave.
Okay.
You know what? Sing Sing.
Make it sing. Okay. Production design.
Nosferatu. No, actually, Wicked.
You give it to Wicked. Yep.
I
I
have
think
to give Wicked
Nosferatu
some.
might deserve it, but I don't think Nosferatu is going to get a single award.
No, I don't think so
I
either.
don't think it's gonna get anything.
Cinematography. You know, I would have given it to Nosferatu, but I don't think that. Let's do The Brutalist.
Okay, that might not be. That's not a bad pick. Let's see. Costume design.
Wicked.
Film editing.
The Brutalist.
All right. Makeup. One of your favorite category here.
Makeup and hairstyling. Wicked.
Wicked. Sound.
A Complete Unknown.
Okay. Visual effects.
Surprisingly, I'm probably gonna regret it. Better Man.
Better Man. Okay. Score.
The Brutalist. Oh no, you know what? Wicked. How could it be? It has to be Wicked.
Give it to Wicked. All right. Original song.
I can't see the bottom one.
Oh, sorry. They don't have the penis and vagina song, unfortunately. So
Uh, Never too late. Hold on one second.
Dude Bro Set 420 says, I hear Wild Robot is good. Yes, it is. It's a great kids movie, great family movie. It's really enjoyable. Even though it does have Pedro Pascal in it as one of the voices, it's still enjoyable.
Let's go with Never Too Late from Elton John or something.
Okay.
Animated short.
No idea.
Don't know it. Let's just say Yuck.
Yuck. Okay.
Documentary short. Incident. Live action short.
Live action short.
The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent.
Okay. I could not pick I'm Not a Robot because that would just be dishonest. So yeah. Yeah. All right. Yep, I threw my picks in there earlier, so yeah, I put Conclave in for Best Picture. I picked Demi Moore for Best Actress, and then Best Actor Ralph Fiennes. I think it's one of those going to give it to him, not necessarily for the movie, but for the career kind of a thing. I also picked Zoe for Best Supporting Actress. I threw in Jeremy Strong for Apprentice in there just because I think they wanted to give the movie an award so they could get somebody up there to say nasty things about Trump.
You could be right.
And then Brutalists, Brady Corbett for director. A documentary, no idea, just pick something at random. International film, Emilia Perez. I think they're going to give at least one or two awards to the film. They won't give it to her, to him, the actress. But they might give the movie some awards. Specifically probably Zoe, and then maybe one of these others. But I gave international film there. Animated film, Wild Robot, same as yours. Original screenplay I gave to The Substance, and then adapted to Emilia Perez. Wicked for production design, Brutalist for cinematography, Wicked for costume. We agreed on all of those. Honora for film editing, Wicked for makeup and styling, Complete Unknown for sound. I did Wicked again for visual effects. I think Wicked's gonna do really well. I think they're gonna want to give that to a lot of different categories for Wicked. They just love it so much. They love that Cynthia Erivo, and then I did Emilia Perez for score. That's almost just a joke there. I seriously don't think it'll win, but it's and then original song from Emilia Perez as well. And then we both picked Yuck for animated short. Guess we just like that title.
Wait a minute. Are you ready? Are you ready for crazy, crazy stuff?
What's that?
There's a breaking news situation.
Oh
okay?
no! Breaking
news. Let me see for a second.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Let me try to, pull this up. I don't know if I can even get it, but fudge. I'm trying to find. This guy has. See, what happened was I got an email. That Matthew Baloney guy. He just posted. He posted something. Kathy Kennedy contorts around confirming her exit. I don't usually descend into lame back and forth with trade reporters, but this one is particularly amusing. First of all, you're a trade reporter. You're just a loser. Deadline's Mike Fleming, who never saw a movie producer's anal cavity he couldn't burrow inside, did a hilariously sycophantic interview with Kathleen Kennedy after I broke the news on Monday that the Lucasfilm president will announce her exit by the end of the year. It was quite something. Addressing the news, Kennedy basically confirmed it, saying that she and Disney, Bob Iger and Alan Bergman have a plan. But the fact that that Matthew Baloney said that this guy was inside her asshole, I mean, that's basically what we were saying. Like,
Yep.
yeah, that's crazy. I got this update. Interesting.
Interesting. Yep. I think we'll just have to wait and see until later this year. But yeah, I'm not going to believe she's out the door until she's actually packed up and left. So, um,
No, but it's funny because this guy is like saying, first of all, as much as I don't think very highly of Matthew Baloney, I actually do agree with him that this guy is like, this is complete nonsense, this article. So I don't disagree with that.
all right. Well, let's say some goodbyes, give some shout outs, and then yeah, let's call it a night, man.
Yeah, let's do that.
I got booted out a few times too, so I guess we'll just try and see how many how many names we can get here. I've got Mer Rockstro, Deeple 101, Dude Bro Seth 420 joining us over on Rumble tonight. Hypno Crab, good to see you again, Hypno Crab. And then yeah, over on YouTube, yeah, you probably got just about as many as I do here. Of course, shout out to Adam Gray and Eraserhead for modding for us on
Yeah,
the
thank
channel
you.
over there. Do appreciate that. Um, let's see here. Mary White, Tim Hayes, Rob Altus, Whalum 03, The Dead Man, James Caserta, Storm King, Marla Sharondoff. Good to see you here again tonight, Marla. Uh, let's see. Argentum, always nice to see you. Common People's here this evening. It's good to see you, Common People. Uh, Dr. Johann Kraus, PhD. Let's see who else. Getting pretty late. Lots of people have already headed out. So Mars Monkey Max, Breeze Feats. Let's see if I'm missing anybody else here. You see any in there? Jonathan Conroy.
I was looking for something.
I have new dick. Uh, Kendrick Lama. Yeah, I think got just about everybody. Again, yeah, we lost a lot of our early chat earlier tonight. I know I saw Smilex here. We saw Tom from Midnight's Edge After Dark. Saw him here earlier this evening. Saw Jay Goodwin. Yeah, I know there was a few others earlier on. Yeah, having the browser reset on me a whole bunch of times. I lost a whole bunch of the back chat on our in the green room here. So, anything else, Bryce?
No, that's it. I was trying to find where I can get this. I feel like he had more that he wrote, but I uh, I wasn't able. Oh, wait a second. No, I didn't. I was trying to see if there's more information. He hides it behind all these paywalls and stuff, and
Yeah,
there's probably more. But I got the main idea. The fact that I even got to read that he's like laughing at the other guy. I think that it's what we all thought. Somebody gave him that breadcrumb to run with it. She didn't want to leave, and now it's like a war of narratives. But it
yeah.
all doesn't matter. Thanks everybody for hanging out with us. Why did Istophobos leave? Is everything okay?
Oh no, I think it's just say that Istophobos was here, and I didn't mention Istophobos. So, yeah, Istophobos was here earlier. DJ Play Nice, I see
Okay.
there.
Well, that's
We
good to
did
know.
get we did get the 5 Price of Reason Live memberships from Istophobos earlier this evening as
which is
well.
very nice of him.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for hanging out with us, and
Yeah.
I guess that's it. We'll see you guys next
Yeah.
week.
Take care.
Bye.